It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott's here. He's actually in Mexico City. Richard Campbell's in Wales. I'll put on a giant leak hat, and we'll talk about Microsoft. Moment 2 is now official. We've got a great Thurrant, actually a couple of Thurrants all merged into one, and we'll take a look at the latest ChatGPT, numero cuatro. All that and more coming up next on Windows Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Richard Campbell. Episode 820, recorded Wednesday, March 15th, 2023. Mustard can solve any problem. Windows Weekly is brought to you by Drata. Too often, security professionals are undergoing the tedious, arduous task of manually collecting evidence. With Drata, say goodbye to the days of manual evidence collection and hello to automation. All done at Drata speed. Visit drata.com/twit to get a demo and 10% off implementation. And by Collide. Collide is a device trust solution that ensures that if a device isn't secure, it can't access your apps. It's zero trust for Okta. Visit collide.com/ww and book a demo today. It's time for Windows Weekly. Yay! The show we cover the latest news from Microsoft, home of ChatGPT. And now...
win ChatGPT to you, buddy.
I promise they're real. Despite all appearances, I bring you our hosts on the left, Paul Thurrott, Thurrott.com and leanpub.com. Hello, Paul.
Hello, Leo.
Coming to us from Mexico City. Mm-hmm. Coming to us from Wales, from Newport, Wales in the UK, Mr. Richard Campbell of .NET Rocks. Hi, Richard.
Hey, Leo.
We got our full international cast aboard here.
I did a 12-hour time change. You know, what's the big deal?
Oh, that's right.
I'd be walking into walls if I was you.
Are you?
I can't even handle a 2-hour time change.
You said you stopped over in Canada, though, in BC on the way home.
Did. I got 48 hours to say hi to the wife and do some laundry, and then I kept going.
Oh. And what brings you to the beautiful Welsh countryside?
I am here as the host of Run As Radio for the SQL Bits conference.
Oh, nice. How many conferences a year do you do?
Around 20.
That means twice a month, almost. You go out and see the
more
world.
Or less. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Sometimes you get 3 back-to-back in 2 weeks. You know.
Yeah, sure. And Paul, how many conferences a year do you do?
Lately, it's been a little on the light side. I didn't say 0.
And who's happier, I might add? I like not doing conferences, I have to say. I don't miss, the South by's going on. I don't miss being down there.
I miss it in theory, but the truth is when the opportunity arises, it's like, sometimes you fall out of something for so long, you just don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah. That's what happened with COVID, right? It spoiled us.
I definitely don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, but we also don't want to get dressed anymore. We don't want to go to work anymore.
Oh, listen, I was a pioneer of that stuff. It's cute to me that the rest of the world is caught up on that. Shaving and bathing don't have to be a daily activity.
Why do it every day? Why? So we're going to jump right in to Windows because I can't wait to talk about AI. And so you're going to just tease me. We'll do that. There's a lot of AI news this week, and Microsoft's really at the forefront of this. But before we do,
is it though? Yeah, that's actually an interesting discussion in and of itself. But we'll get to that.
Yeah. Okay.
We'll get to that.
How provocative.
Mm-hmm.
But first, a word from Windows 11.
Yep. So chances are, if you're watching this podcast or listening to this podcast, you installed Moment 2 weeks ago. Because the preview version came out on February 28th.
Well, I didn't even know it was a preview. I just installed it. I mean, it offered it, and I took it.
Yep. Listen, you're Microsoft's favorite customer. That's what they want.
Passive.
So for the rest of the world.
Accepting. Submissive.
Yeah, exactly. Accepting. Just open your arms. Embrace the wave, Leo.
Yes.
So for the rest of the world, it arrived yesterday on Patch Tuesday, March 14th. So that will be an automatic update eventually, right, for people. And so you'll start seeing some of those changes. The most obvious being that start box. I'm sorry, I keep calling it that. The search box that appears on the start menu. Geez, Louise. 2 hour time. 2 hour time, Jason. I'm completely off my game.
You mean that
right?
pill, that thing at the bottom of the...
Let me start. I know something about Windows, I promise.
Okay.
So
okay.
I was just discussing this with Richard before the show. When Windows 11 22H2 came out last October, it had a start... here I go again. A search icon in the taskbar.
Yeah.
1 month later or 2 months later, depending on when you install the update, it had a search pill, as we call it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as of yesterday, it has a search box. So they have changed that UI 3 times since
Wait
October.
a minute. It's not rounded corners anymore?
No, they're rounded, but now it's a search box.
Oh,
but it's not really a search box, right? Because you can't type in it. It's just something that takes up space. Well, you are typing in it.
I'm typing in it.
It takes up space. You're typing in it. It takes up space in the taskbar unnecessarily, in my opinion. Because
look how big it is.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything that you can't do otherwise. So they very clearly are trying to drive you to this thing. To me, search is like the start button for Windows 95. They really want you to go there as much as possible.
I no longer have that Bing icon, though. Is that because I turned off?
Because you turned off search highlights.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Yeah, this is what drives Microsoft's online services in Windows 11.
Doesn't matter.
This is the point of entry.
Search highlights does not turn that on. I got bad. Oh no, it just came back. It was waiting. It was waiting in the wings.
Yeah.
And I turned it off because it doesn't do anything. It just opens Edge, right?
Among the first things you should change in Windows is dealing with that. However you want to. I turn it off completely, but you can access it with a keyboard shortcut. You can access it from search, from start. Here I go again. You don't need to have the box or the icon or whatever.
Actually, this has changed behavior. I don't know if when I click the Bing thing, it now opens search. It doesn't go to Edge anymore.
Goes right there. Well, no, it will when you start searching.
Oh, and then when I do this, see what the new Bing can do. Let's write a poem, and now it opens.
And now it will steal a poem that someone else wrote, and then you can claim it as your own. It's fun.
I think this is the first time this poem has ever been seen in public anywhere, because it didn't exactly steal it. It stole its ideas or something.
I remember if I mentioned this last week. If I didn't, I should correct something I said 2 weeks ago, which is that when this feature first appeared for me, I would do searches and it would actually open in my browser, not in Edge. And
Brave.
I thought, my God,
it opened Brave. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was, in fact, something Brave was doing. Microsoft is still forcing you to use Edge. It's just that Brave is temporarily at least counteracting that, which is why that.
And last week you said Microsoft had counteracted the counteraction.
Is that what? Okay, so we talked about it. Yeah, okay, yeah. So 2 weeks ago I could get away with this. Today it doesn't matter what I do. Edge still loads.
You're going to get Edge.
It's just going to, they just escalate.
You're going to like it,
and you're going to like it.
Take it.
Okay.
Okay.
And Control A does open this. No, what is it? It said something. Oh well, I don't remember. And then because I just assumed everybody uses Windows, just hits the Windows key and starts typing.
Yeah, to me that's a long ingrained habit, right? Yeah. I don't remember.
But I won't get.
They added that.
I won't get Bing that way.
Sure, you will.
I will. How do I get Bing Chat that way?
Oh no, you won't get Bing Chat that way.
No.
I mean, you have to actually go to get that. But if you just hit Start and or the Windows key or whatever and start typing, you do get search
it's the
highlights,
same thing.
And then
it's the same thing.
And you can click the chat button, which will load Edge, which will go to the Bing Chatbot. Yeah.
Okay. It's the same result, which again brings up the point: why are you taking up all this space on my?
Because they really want you to go to that thing, don't they? I mean, that's really what it is. It's something. It's like hey, look at me.
I can turn it off though, right?
Yeah, you can by turning off search highlights.
Okay. No, but can I turn off the search pill?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
So right-click the taskbar, do taskbar settings, and now you have a choice of appearances for the search item, as they call it. It can be an icon. It can be an icon and a label, which is the pill.
That's in taskbar settings. Got it.
Yep. Yeah. So that's also new to this Moment 2 update.
Search icon only, search icon and label, or just hide it. So really,
And
no complaints
just
because you
point
can
out,
turn it off.
Original version of Windows 11, 22H2, Moment 1, Moment 2, they finally got back to the way it's always worked in Windows 10. So, this is what we call progress here in the
almost
Redmond
back
land.
where we began.
Right. It's like 4 updates to get us back to the beginning. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Incredible. Anyway, that's the way it is now is the way it should be. You should have that choice.
Yeah.
I still can't pick up the taskbar and put it on the left side of the screen.
This is baby steps. We maybe someday.
Used to be able to do that.
On Windows 10, that's where it's configure all my machines.
So,
I got lots of horizontal width. I only have so much vertical.
Exactly.
Yeah. So about a year ago, they said they were never going to make that change in Windows 11 because so few people used it. But recently, there have been indications, including some code, showing that it can happen now. So it might be coming back.
Well, I think maybe the argument against it would be, because I used to get a lot of calls on the radio show. I kind of miss interacting with normies.
Yeah.
But I used to get a lot of calls on the radio show from people who said, "What? My taskbar's on the side," because you could drag it there, right?
Good.
It was easy to accidentally click and drag it over there, and they couldn't figure out how it happened or how to get back.
I mean, these are people you could fool with a wallpaper that made it look like their screen was cracked. I mean, it's.
And the big business of replacing your IE address bar.
Yeah.
All kinds of various malwares.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true.
Those are the days.
That's true.
Those are the days.
But I could see how Microsoft in their, with their telemetry would say, we see a lot of people accidentally dragging their taskbar into other parts of the screen. And, for Mac
and
users,
we don't have, there's all kinds of things. Sorry.
It might be nice to have it on the top of the screen or on the left. You're right, because Richard was right. We have wide screens for the most part. There's lots more room on the left there.
Well, you should, whatever, you don't have to justify it. We should just have that choice.
Right.
A lot of people will counter that with, I don't like that. It's like, no one cares what you like. Yeah. Some people like it. We'll just let them have the opportunity, You're
so egalitarian. You're practically
communist. I'm a
communist, Paul.
I'm a fairist. That's what I am. Is there a political party for that? I don't know. I guess it's communist. I don't know.
You're a fairist. I just believe in the equality of all mankind.
Maybe it's more of a common senseist.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know. I don't want it on the side. I don't want it on the top. But I don't care if other people do, and I think they should have that option.
There are issues of putting the taskbar on the side, like. Some apps do not respond well to the fact that the left edge of the screen has been taken up by the taskbar.
We live in a world.
Let's get into the real controversy. Do you auto hide?
Yeah. Never.
No.
Why not? I know why I stopped doing it. I like auto hide. I want to see everything. But I'm just curious why
because when you actually go down to select something, there's that extra second where the stupid thing has to animate back onto the screen. And I just don't.
It's intelligent. It says it's intelligent.
Is it?
Yeah.
I don't feel like it's intelligent.
Right up until
if it was intelligent, it would support a small icons mode, and then we could have a middle ground between hiding it and the current stupid 1-inch high taskbar.
So I habitually turn on auto hide, but where it becomes problematic for me is programs that don't recognize that.
Yes.
And then that becomes problematic. But see, I kind of like having all that space and that kind of
the issue that Richard raised about having the taskbar on the side, the issue you just raised about having a taskbar hidden and apps that don't. I am not a professional developer. I don't know a lot about this stuff, but I can tell you this. I know how to write code that can handle those situations.
Yeah.
And it's kind of built in. I don't understand why any app can't do this. Like Notion is a great example of an app that I maximize it. And when I bring it back, it's in the size of a maximized window, but it is in fact in every stored floating state. I know exactly how to fix that problem. And it bugs me that this app that I rely on every day does not.
Yeah.
And it's strange to me. But yeah, these are basic windowing features of Windows.
It's a hard computer science problem, I'm guessing.
Honestly, it isn't. And it was solved like 25 years ago.
Yeah, it's whatever framework they're using doesn't do it the right way.
Oh.
Yeah. Or does it differently or something and they don't know how it works.
That makes
something
sense.
Something like that.
Yeah.
They're not even dependent on it. It's just now they've committed all this code in this space. maybe the framework developers still exist, maybe they don't. Like it's a nasty little trap.
They don't. So there's not a unified like everybody must use this framework thing.
Yes, there is. It's an Apple, right? If you understand the Apple world, there you go. There's exactly one way. Everything else is wrong.
Are you telling me that there aren't Apple made apps in macOS today that have that old QuickTime style metal sheen to them? Like that's what Windows is. It's like a archaeological dig of every framework that's ever been created, piled up together.
So that's why it all looks different.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly right. The visual basic runtime that hasn't been significantly updated since 1999 shipped with Windows 11.
That's right.
Still in there.
That commitment to backwards compatibility is what makes Windows terrible.
It's also what makes Windows Windows, right? Is that yes, indeed, that old piece of software your ATM still depends on.
So here again, I'll say I believe there to be a middle ground between what I see to be an overly aggressive tactic on Apple's part to get rid of old technology and Microsoft's just seeming unwillingness to get rid of anything. Like there has to be something in the middle that makes sense. But
I think you and I have done at least 2 run-asses where we made fun of the fact that they keep trying to make a safe 64-bit version of Windows.
Right.
And always have to put in an escape hatch to go back to regular Windows from that instance of Windows. And absolutely everybody uses it.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Trapped by legacy.
Mm-hmm. A legacy that made them lots of money.
Right.
I think, that's okay, right? Because business users don't, they want to stay the same. It's not awful, is it?
No.
Let's ask the guy in the Matrix what he thinks. You're getting this suckling food source every day, isn't it?
But I guess what I would say is there are consequences, like, kind of weird aesthetic things. Right. But in the long run, everything works pretty well, and you don't leave anybody behind. No user left behind. That's a good thing.
But you also battle with security problems.
Security's not.
Battle with
that's
compatibility
right.
problems.
It's not always good to let you leave all code running.
No, that's right. Win32? I feel like it's a big source of security issues still.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Of course.
And the default configuration for Windows is to allow everything to run. And you can, as what's the cost of this? You're asking that, Leo? It falls on the IT.
Yeah.
The IT people have to know a lot to be able to secure their machine.
Right.
And then they're the ones that receive the fallback from people who can't run things and they're the bad guy. Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, that's not on the roster that we do breach some of those security rules for the apps we really need to run. Your terrible piece of software you don't run, not going to run. Right. And that's the price. But the problem is, out of the box, everything runs because that's the compatibility mantra. Right.
Go ahead.
And this is the same problem. Like we talk about this, it's the Swiss Army knife with every knife and blade pulled out, right? Like they're all there, and nobody.
What happens when you trip and land on that thing?
Whatever you do, don't put it in your pocket. Yeah,
exactly.
Okay.
And the problem is that nobody needs them all, but everybody needs one of them, and we just don't.
Right. But here's the problem I have with that today, because you're right, 100%. This has always been the argument for Windows that this user base is so large and so diverse that to accommodate all of these people's needs, you have to have all these special cases and whatever it is. And that's, that always made sense. The problem is in 2023, Android, iOS, the Mac, Linux to a small degree, the web, whatever, there's all these platforms that have, millions or hundreds of millions or billions of users too. It's not just Windows. And some of those platform makers very much do restrict the access to legacy code. So it's possible to do it. In fact, I think we just held up Apple as an example of maybe the more stringent about this. They have one of the biggest user bases, maybe the biggest, I don't know, on earth, one of them anyway. And those people seem really accepting of every change Apple's made. Nope, we're not doing 32-bit code anymore.
Catching lots of flack for older devices that just stopped working, right? Like what does Apple actually do? They maintain a certain number of iOS revs that they're willing to support,
right?
a certain amount of hardware that will run on those iOS revs. So the bottom line is there are folks that are now being left behind with older iPads, with older versions of iOS that cannot.
Well, they can't. I mean, they might not care about upgrading. I mean, it's kind of hard to say, but
as long as it runs the software you need it to run, right?
Yeah, and that's the important
always
thing.
The Yep. But iOS also has the lovely advantage of having only existed since 2007.
Yes.
So it just doesn't have the baggage. Give it 20 more years.
Well, okay. I mean, you're right, 100%. I would say, on some level, it dates back to OS 10 from 2001, dates back to Next Step from 1990, whatever. Mm-hmm. So
on the Mac OS side, right? But they did have the opportunity to do the reboot, which Microsoft never did. I mean, they never tried to make WinPhone live on its own.
Right.
It started off with an odd little kernel that was really running a variation of Silverlight in the Win 7 days. We don't even talk about CE. That's a whole other can of worms. So they literally had like a generate your own OS device.
Sure.
And then they completely rebooted it 3 times until they'd beaten every developer to death.
Yeah. Yep. That's true. And unfortunately, it took them those revs to get it where it needed to be from the beginning. But
I think 8 had it nailed.
Yeah,
But the need to have one kernel, right, is why they rebooted it again into 10 and finally, stamped the last WinPhone dev in the head.
Yes.
I'm not the bitter one here. I can call up a dozen WinPhone devs, and you can talk to each one of them. They all will cry.
Yep. By the way, Silverlight, death of Silverlight, who can blame that on? Steve Jobs.
You're not wrong.
And
in the end, Microsoft's sins around Silverlight were not that Steve Jobs killed it, but how they failed to communicate it.
Right. I believe Bob Muglia lost his job because of this, because he blurted out to Mary Jo Foley that they were going in a different direction.
Now, if I could ever finish my book, I would actually write this chapter because I have it cold from Bob Moo.
Oh, wow.
That's not why he left.
Oh, good.
Okay.
And also that he didn't know when he said to MJ, well, our strategy has shifted, that nobody had spoken of it since April.
Yeah.
The issue was at whatever year that was at Build, that Silverlight was never mentioned after being the highlight of the show the previous 2 years.
Was it related to the end of
2010 launch?
Is it related to the end of Flash or no?
No.
Stephanie?
It could have been the replacement for Flash, though, right?
Well, that's what it was said. Because Silverlight is where the word Silverlight comes from is the debris that's left from after a flash bulb goes off. It's called Silverlight.
I didn't know that.
What comes after Flash?
That's great.
And so there was an intent there, but that was not really. I mean, the original thing is it was for Netflix, right? It was the speed media player.
Yep.
Then when they thought, hey, this is an opportunity to get stuff on more sophisticated web development, and so they dropped .NET 3 in there. So V2 got .NET, V1 was purely JavaScript, and then. But the painful part about it, and I think it is a pivotal point in the book that I never could seem to finish, is in April of 2010 when they launched Studio 2010, and I helped with that launch. I helped run that event. Mm-hmm. You were there. Silverlight was front and center as the premier approach to enterprise development. And this is, again, we talk about the real sin.
No, Silverlight is honestly one of the most unheralded defeats at Microsoft because it was basically a lightweight version of WPF brought cross-platform essentially to the web,
right?
And should have been the way.
Its code name was WPF everywhere, right?
That's right. One of the possibilities for the Windows 8 app model was that it could have been Silverlight. That was one of the things that they looked at. And Sinofsky hated .NET. So,
well, in his world, there was such a thing as a Windows developer.
Well, was there by that point?
No, I mean, they never existed. People don't develop for platforms. People develop with languages.
Right.
He also believed there was an Office developer when he was the Office guy, and that didn't exist either. There are C# developers and there are VBA developers.
Yep.
But because you program in a language, that's your association, not the platform. Right?
Oh, this is sad to me. Okay. This is the saddest.
I mean, that whole crisis is because in April you tell us it's the way.
Right.
Then thoughts on Flash. And internally at Microsoft at that moment, they go, okay, well, this is doomed now. We have to do something else. But
Right.
you're now also dealing with the whole tablet motion, right? That thoughts on Flash came out because Flash was murdering the iPad, right? I mean, that's really what Jobs cared about was
battery life and performance.
you could visit, you're watching Strong Bad on your iPad and you can watch the battery go down.
Oh my God. That was my favorite thing on the web for easily 5 years
It was
straight.
the best thing that ever happened.
The little Mexican wrestler looking guy with the
That is the best thing that ever happened.
I love the Strong Bad.
And then when they said Flash was going to die, I'm like, not Strong Bad. That's unacceptable.
Right.
But,
that's funny.
But it murdered
Is
the
Leo,
iPad.
what's Leo? Leo's redesigning his studio. What's happening?
Oh, I'm sorry. Don't mind me. I'm just
We're happily digressing on.
No
Flash.
one can see that I've moved things around.
You come back. It's like it's a different color. Everything's in a different place.
I had
a different microphone.
I had a microphone. I was trying out a AKG P2 drum mic. So just a little inside baseball. At the beginning of the show, for people who were listening, I was using a different microphone. And then when we went back to the Heil, I'm old. I can't tell. But my team tells me that the high ends on the AKG weren't as good as the high ends on this.
You know what? The Heil sounds better now that you've just switched.
Yeah, it's better, isn't it? Yeah, it's $350 compared to $115. That was our. But it's all right.
Travel mic.
Well, that's
a travel mic.
So that's one of the reasons I'm trying this is trying to figure out what I can carry around when we go on our trip in a couple of weeks.
I spent so much time trying to find an excellent travel mic. It's hard.
I think this is a good one, and this is my travel kit, this Pelican, and so this will be the. You see how small that is? This will be the.
It looks like an alien head from.
It's funny.
The
well,
Alien
it's a drum mic. You can tell it's a drum mic, but it does sound quite good. So
I'm a big fan of these DPA D-Fines. They pack super small and they sound pretty good.
Yeah, they're fragile though. They're extraordinarily fragile.
They go in a case.
Leo, you're shipping with what looks like a shipping crate from the Titanic. I think it could protect.
Well, I'm going on a cruise, and I thought I'd have my trunk with me. I have to redo the pick and pull though to fit this new mic. I don't know how that's going to work.
Anyway, we're whining about
sorry.
Silverlight. We could be whining about Word. I mean, we're missing an opportunity.
Let's whine some more.
As Mr. Paul Thurrott calls it, the enshirtification of Windows.
Well, I'm trying to keep it clean here. I know this is a family show, but
thank you for doing that. I appreciate that.
I never intended to go down this path, but like everybody, I use software every day, rely on it. And one of the weird things about the era we're in now is that mature software products are being updated every month for some reason, like their mobile apps. And I don't understand what they're doing. And if they're innocuous, I don't care. If you can turn it off, I don't care. But I'm a writer. Microsoft Word is obviously the central tool to my life in many ways. And it has been getting enshirtified for sure. And
in what way, Paul? Let's be specific.
Oh God, in every way, Leo. So all right, so in what way? In what way is it not being enshirtified? No, so in the good old days, if I wanted to do something like find a word in a document, I could hit Control F, and this little dialogue came up floating over the window. And I could look and find every instance, and it was really nice. And that thing would never be in the way because it was so small. And then some time ago, they turned it into a pane on the left. And now in the latest version of Word, it's a giant pane on the right that actually blocks the text I'm trying to find. It actually gets in the way. So the workaround I have temporarily until they enshirtify this part of the product is you can do a Control H, which is for find and replace. And there's actually still a find tab on that thing. It's a little window and it still works. And that's kind of, okay, that's fine.
But as long as you're careful not to press the replace part where it now replaces it with nothing.
Exactly. Right. Right. Although, replace all is a good thing to have if you need it. But it's just, I don't like UI that gets in the way. I don't understand this. I brought up this app the other day. The thing that finally prompted me to write this was I brought up the app and it said, hey, have you heard of OneDrive? You should think about using OneDrive. And I'm like,
no app should say, hey.
Idiot. First of all, this document I'm working on is saved in OneDrive. I pay for OneDrive through Microsoft 365 Family, which you should know.
Yeah.
Be smart. And by the way, you can't figure this out, but your AI stuff's going to work fine. What are you kidding me? To me, this is crazy. But the other example, the other big thing for me is Word arbitrarily saves some setting changes that you make to your Microsoft account. There's no way to find a list of what those things are. but I can tell you it's nothing important. Like one of the things that it saves is your theme choice. So if you like dark mode, you're going to have dark mode everywhere you are, no matter what the underlying system is using.
Does it still use the template file and save that?
Yes, it does.
So a lot of settings are in there, right?
Okay, but I'm talking about settings related to the application, not to the document.
Right.
Yes, your normal ... actually, I believe does. I don't change mine, but I think that does sync to your Microsoft account. Right. That's an interesting point. But so, years ago, 2007, Microsoft added the ribbon to the core Office apps. The following product was probably 2010, I guess. They kind of added it to the rest. The ribbon was controversial at the time. Although I have to say, this is one thing I kind of agreed with, because the top 10 of 10 feature requests for Office were features that were already in Office that nobody could find, right? So their idea was, we're going to put all the UI out there. This thing with toolbars and menus was too small for all of the features that are in these products. And it was like, okay, I on some level, I'm like, yeah, okay, fine. However, I only use some tiny percentage of features, and a lot of things I do with keyboard shortcuts anyway. So the ribbon is kind of a big UI to me, and I like to get it out of the way. So you can hide the ribbon, And then Leo will know, because I talked about this incessantly for a couple of years, but at some point, Microsoft moved to something called the simplified ribbon. If you use Outlook on the desktop, you'll see that in the Windows version of the product. It's a small version. It's toolbar is what it is really, but it's a small simplified ribbon. If you use the Office products on the web, I know it's in Word, and it's probably in Excel and PowerPoint. And it is what I said it was. It's a simplified ribbon. It's nice. They were going to bring this to Word on the desktop, and I waited 2 years for that to happen. And instead, what they did was they came up with something called the personalized toolbar. And the idea here is that you use Word for some amount of time after this feature has been installed, and then in the background, it examines the things you use, like which buttons you click on and everything. And then one day it says, hey, guess what? We can make a new simplified toolbar for you. Nice. Do you want us to do that? Yeah, absolutely. And it hides the ribbon, and it puts up a simplified tool. So it's basically the simplified ribbon, but it's supposedly personalized to you. Nice. That thing doesn't sync. So every time I go to a new computer, and I go to a new computer all the time because I review computers, I have to use Word for a little while. Weeks will go by, and it will say, hey, we can make a personalized toolbar. Would you like us to? Yes, I would. And it makes the exact same frickin' toolbar that there's no way for me to turn it on manually or say that I always want it on it just doesn't sync. I don't.
And that's exactly the thing that should be synced, because it's literally based on the thing
it's personalized to you. Exactly. Yeah. Supposedly, right? So between these things,
you need to personalize over and over again.
Yeah. There's a point where a tool that you rely on gets in the way so much that it's no longer helping, it's hindering, right? And I'm right on the line with Word. Like the things that are good about Word are still good. For myself, unfortunately, in my particular use case, I have to output most of what I write to WordPress, and getting clean code into WordPress is job one. I can't have formatting codes going on in the background. So when I use something like a Notion or Typora or my normal Markdown editor or Word for the web, oddly, Google Docs, if I paste anything in from those apps, there's a lot of gobbledygook HTML code in the background, including in some cases things that impact the font size or weight. And no. This has to be super clean. It would be
VS Code for that.
Yeah. By the way, VS Code is absolutely one of the things I've looked at. I don't remember anymore, because you can do Markdown, et cetera, et cetera.
You'll do Markdown.
You can do straight HTML too, I guess, if you wanted to.
I've been telling the joke about Word and all the Office products. Just like they're so far down the version numbers now, they're at the point where they've hit. Mm-hmm. They now like the putting in features because they get to take them back out again, so they get two for different feed. Right.
I just want, if this thing could, like, if there was a way, I can work around Find because I can do Control H. Mm-hmm. If I could save that personalized toolbar, I maybe wouldn't be having this conversation. Maybe. Yeah. If it wouldn't show me ads for things I'm already using and pay for, maybe. But I'm actively seeking to replace this thing that I've relied on for, 25 years or more.
It's annoying you. I mean,
it's incredible.
My general concern is anytime a piece of software is too busy with what it wants to do than to interfere with what I want to do.
Right. I think this is the general impression that Windows 11 gives to a lot of, I will call technical people. I think most normal people use it and think nothing. I've asked multiple people. I've watched as friends and family have upgraded. And I say, what do you think? and waiting for them to say, hey, what happened to, and they're all like, oh, I don't really even notice it. So like, okay. So normal people, it's probably fine. For the people watching this show, you and I, us, there are things where you're like, wait, hold on a second. What's going on here? There are these little workflows that I rely on that you've taken away. And every time, it's back. But when you used to right click on the taskbar and not get Task Manager, it was like, you have that one moment of, oh, right, I know I have to do this other thing now.
Right.
And
oh yeah, right. I'm routinely reminded you moved my cheese for no apparent reason.
Yep. So I wrote this article about Word. I was just freaking out about it. I'm like, I just can't. I just don't understand what they're doing.
Right.
And the next day I woke up and Microsoft updated Microsoft Paint. Now, this one is harder for me. Is even harder. Because Microsoft Paint, as goofy as it sounds, because people are like, Paint, Notepad, what are you talking about? I use these apps every single day. Mm-hmm. Every day. I use Microsoft Paint to make my Christmas card, which I included an example of in the article that I wrote about this. Microsoft updated Notepad for Windows 11 as part of some whatever update, and it's fine. It's the same app. It looks better. It supports tabs, which I don't care about. All the keyboard shortcuts work. It does dark mode and light mode.
No breaking.
It's a better version of the app. It's a superset. It's better.
Right.
Perfect. And then they apparently handed off the Paint upgrade to some kid who was here who faked his way through college and doesn't actually know how to do anything. And then they threw that thing into the product like it made any sense. So the updated Paint does not support light mode or dark mode. It just is in bright white mode. It looks like a flashlight in your face.
That's the old version. It always has been.
Well, the old version used to at least be like kind of tan or off, it was like light colored, but it wasn't like a spotlight. Now it's like a spotlight. Doesn't support menu-based keyboard shortcuts, right? You can't go Alt F, blah, blah, blah. Whatever.
Those are broken.
That was broken. Yep, they used to work. It doesn't support dark mode, like, it should. Kind of weird. They would do a Notepad right and not do Paint right. Okay, whatever. Yeah. Okay. But one of the things I do with Paint every single day is I usually change the height of things. The promo graphics, my site are in 16:9 aspect ratio. A lot of screens today are 16:10. I got to do some cropping. I manually kind of work with that, and then I do the crop I use keyboard shortcuts. It's called image properties, but it's Control E, and this little dialog comes up. There's two boxes, width and height. Width is selected. So you can type in your number, whatever you want. You can type in the number. You can tab over to the other one and you hit enter and you're done and I'm out. And I do this every day, all day long. I do this today. I've probably done it 5 or 6 times.
Right.
But then they updated it. So latest version of Paint, that dialog has been restyled to look more like a Windows 11 thing. So it's humongous because everything has to be huge now.
Everything's huge.
The width box is not selected when this thing comes up. So if you start typing, nothing happens. To get to the width box, you have to tab 5 times. 5.
You know that it's exactly.
Yeah, because I do it every day. To get to height, which is the one I really want, you have to tab 6.
So you got it memorized. Right. Tap.
Yeah. All right, here's the thing. So I changed the height. So in other words, like I have an image that's 1066 by 666. It has to be 1066 by 600. So I change. I type 600. I hit enter, nothing happens because now enter doesn't work on anything in that box unless it's the OK button is selected. We just talked about how things are built into Windows and they just work and you don't have to do anything. You have to, you know what it is? I drive around Pennsylvania and people are driving in the rain without their lights on. Or I'm driving at night and they're driving without their lights on. These people are idiots. And you have to do work for that to happen. Your car's lights are on automatically all the time. You had to have looked at it and said, nope, and put it on some other thing because you know better than God or something. I don't know. This is what this is. They're like, these features like auto-select the right thing when you go to the dialogue and hit enter anywhere and have it work. That's just built in. You had to strip out code to get rid of that.
No,
you got
the control keys
work,
but the alt keys don't. Like if they were all broken, I'd say, well, it's just a bug.
It's just what is there any quality control at this company?
An intern did this for sure.
Yes, that's exactly. Thank you. That was my conclusion as well. Exactly.
And an intern who's never used an alt key in their life.
Yes, they're like, I'm confused. I use a Mac. I don't understand keyboard shortcuts. We don't need those.
Yeah, that's not a thing.
All right, let's talk about Microsoft Teams. This is the biggest one for me. Every morning at 9:00 at ET, I get on a call with Brad. We do a little podcast thing. When I'm home, it depends on the computer. This is the interesting thing. Mm-hmm. When I'm home, I would say at least twice a week, some setting is not correct related to my headphones or the microphone. Right. It's on the wrong device. Or even the cameras happen sometimes. It's crazy. So since I've been here in Mexico, every single day we've connected. I can't hear him because it's connected to a headphone jack on this microphone that doesn't have anything in it. It's just sitting here empty. And
it's never been used.
Here I'm going to supply advice to Microsoft because I can solve this problem right now. You have a feature called preferred audio device or preferred whatever device, preferred microphone. And the idea is no matter what else is going on in the computer, I don't care what someone selected out in Windows or is using in other apps. If this device is here, use it every frickin' time. I don't change things. It should just work every time.
Windows can detect that there's headphones plugged in or not.
Yes, it can.
It's selecting the headphones that
I don't know what it's doing. I don't know why. There's no sense. There's no point here where I can say, well, I understand what. No, nothing has changed. No configuration has changed. It's just wrong every day. By the way, we're using a product called Zoom, which you probably have heard of today. Zoom always works fine.
Yep.
So when I know there are people in the Microsoft space like, oh, Zoom, we should have had that. That should have been Skype or, Teams should. You know what? Here's a shocker, guys. Zoom works. It works. I connected to this call. I haven't used Zoom in days. No problem. It's on the mic. It's on the right headphone. Right. Everything's working. Perfect. Finally, we'll send it with the real burger of the story. Microsoft Edge.
Oh boy.
Microsoft Edge was just updated to version 111. And this is the one where, just like Windows 11 Moment 2 added the stupid big Bing icons everywhere, they added a stupid big Bing icon to the freaking toolbar that you cannot get rid of. What?
Yeah. That whole right side tab. Because we needed to use more screen space.
This thing supports mouse over. So not only, you don't even have to click it. You just go near it now. And it's like, hello, did you want to chat? I can be creative, balanced, or precise. What is going on? Yeah.
I want to talk to somebody. It's a digital landmine feature.
Yes.
And it's like, I dare you to drag your mouse anywhere near this.
Exactly. But I need to click the thing right.
Yeah.
It's.
And I'm not 20 anymore. My mousing is not that precise.
Exactly. Look, I'm 56 years old. I'm lucky I can get anywhere near it. I don't know what's going on. Listen, I've had an entire career of frustration thanks to Microsoft. Like I'm not a stranger to this, but I feel like it's escalated in this, what I'll call the Windows 11 era, that there is no quality controller. One of the things that's actually kind of nice about Windows 11 is the look and feel. It's pretty. It's elegant looking.
It's
nice.
Aesthetic. Yeah.
It's a nice aesthetic. But the thing still, like, it's not, I don't want the image properties dialog to be beautiful. I want it to work. Can't we have both? Why can't it be pretty and good? No? All right. I know I'm an insane person, but I just
want to welcome the old Paul Thurrott back. We missed you, Paul. We missed you.
Listen, I want everything to be sunshine and unicorns. I do. I really do. I need it. But it just isn't.
No, and I understand. I do.
This stuff is nonsense. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like I can appreciate decisions I don't agree with. If it's like, okay, I wouldn't do that, but okay, I get it. This stuff is just nonsense.
Is the Bing thing like a marketing strategy? Because it's not a tooltip, right? But I actually put my mouse over it. It gives me a tooltip called Discover, and then also takes over a chunk of the screen.
Yeah.
So somebody did go to the trouble of still implementing the tooltip, which is all you should do.
I know.
Put my mouse over your icon.
I just don't. I don't know.
Is there a flag for booby trap?
I just want to give Paul a hug at this point. But it's sorry.
I should listen. You ever watch? You ever watch a TV show? You're watching a TV show or a movie, right? And it doesn't matter what's going on. I'll pause a show and be like, listen, I'm not a law enforcement official, but I understand that what they're doing here is nonsense. Like this wouldn't happen in the real world. And it kind of takes you out of it, right? So when I use Windows now, I use like Word or Paint or Teams or Edge. I'm like, you know what? I'm not a professional developer. I could do this right. Like I don't but you should be able to do better than me if you work there.
How did this get out the door?
Yes. Like that makes no sense. That's my point, I guess. You know, God, who's running the show over there? What's going on?
And I suppose it's impossible to find somebody who could respond to that, right? Microsoft's not gonna have that conversation.
It's easy to get a response. That's great feedback.
Yes,
that's the response.
Oh, Paul, did you mention this in the feedback hub? Oh, you mean that black hole thing that's in the corner of Windows 11 where you flush ideas down the toilet? No, I didn't put it in the feedback hub. I want people to actually know about it, so I wrote about it on my site instead. You know, if there was any sense that Microsoft gave a crap about this, I would absolutely talk to them directly about it. But everything I see suggests otherwise, and it's very frustrating.
Yeah, well, Windows is not the center of the company anymore. Like,
do you think?
Yeah.
My God, it's not even. It's barely in the company, from what I can tell now.
Who's the intern that chooses Windows?
I know. Well, I don't think interns get a choice. Maybe that's the point.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Who's the qualified developer who's looking to advance his career? Who's like, you know, where I'm going to make a difference? I'm going to fix Microsoft Paint. You know, I don't think that's happening.
This is one of the things that is coming up now that companies are laying off tens of thousands of employees. You know, Facebook's doing another 10,000 after 11,000 last fall, and I'm starting to see stories about like Facebook collecting developers like Pokemon, like hoarding them but not using them. And I'd
like that job. Can I have that job?
I remember one of the questions Elon asked when he went to Twitter, which I mocked at the time, but maybe wasn't far off. Maybe he kind of understands this sometimes happens at these big tech companies. He said, "How many employees are not doing anything? They're just reporting and not doing anything." And then I guess the other question is how many developers, because of lack of oversight or lack of QC or something, are subpar. They're not doing a good job. And it's hard to root those out. One of the things they did on Twitter is they asked people who of your subordinates who deserves promotion, and then they fired the managers and they paid the people that they picked, the new managers. It's hard, I would imagine, in an organization where you have tens of thousands of developers to know.
I mean, do you think Twitter had tens of thousands of developers?
No, they had 7,500 employees total at their peak, and maybe they had a few. That's
actually more than Microsoft, I think they needed.
But how many does Microsoft have?
Oh my God, that's the thing. Yeah, 220 something thousand, whatever it is, employees, right?
But how many are developers? How many are actually writing code? Right?
Yeah, it's hard to say. It's hard to say. It's a big top-heavy company now. I'm sure.
So I think this is the symptom of that, which is that you get stuff that's imperfect.
But the broader issue, and Richard was kind of, I think, was talking to this, was when you're advancing your career at Microsoft, you're not working on Windows. You're working if you're not doing something AI, something.
So now,
right? Well, that's right. The strong minds have all moved on, right, to other parts.
Strong minds.
Well, no, seriously, and I mean, who's left, right? I mean, it's not the best of the breed, right? It just isn't. And the thing is, they're updating these products so much frequently now. It's all these apps, you know, Paint, Notepad, whatever, they could be updated every single day. They're not like a part of monolithic Microsoft work. You know, Windows never changing. They're changing all the time. It's possible, by the way, the thing I just complained about will be fixed in a future update. My problem is that change went out.
Yeah. Is it it's a management problem ultimately, because somebody's got to look at the stuff and make a decision. Oh, that's not good enough, or don't ship that, or why are we doing that? Famously, Steve Jobs was really micromanaging everything that went out the door. That was when Apple was a hell of a lot smaller, and still bad stuff crept out. Do you think no? Do you think
Yeah,
this
but
is a
I mean,
management issue?
for the Apple of that day, that was necessary, right? Everyone enjoys that. Remember, their product grid has we make 4 products. This is Apple. That we all sort of want it to be like that.
Yeah.
But then again, we all like AirPods and
But is this what
else they
happens?
make
Maybe when you get too complex, too big an organization, it's too difficult to. I wonder. I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. All I see is the result. I can't explain it. I don't like it.
I have to say, this is one of the problems in the iPhone ecosystem, which is that every app has a unique interface. There's no standardized interface.
Right.
And so using an app on the iPhone because of a lack of affordances is really a process of discovering, well, I don't know, how do I go back a page?
How do this one do it?
Yeah, how does this one do it?
Please don't get me started on mobile app UI, because that's, if you thought I went to town on Word and Paint, I have lots to say about Facebook and Instagram and whatever else. I mean, the apps that make you tap up and down on the screen as you move forward. The apps that on one screen you can add a post, but when you're on another screen you can only like posts. I don't when there's plenty of room for both, that kind of thing. Mobile apps are a disaster.
Yeah,
and then Android did away with the go back button. Now you have to swipe the left side of the screen, except some apps count on the left side screen swipe as an actual function of the app. So which one intercepted it, the app or the OS?
Yeah. Android as the new Windows. I welcome Google's involvement in this process.
Yeah,
it will be hilarious.
A new level of darkness.
Yep.
All right. You feel better now, Paul? You got the poison out?
No, I don't, but I'm ready to move on, Leo. That's right. Actually, I would have said, listen, I'd like to keep going, but our hour is up. Maybe we'll pick this up again next week.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And if you are having a mental health emergency, please call 911.
So good. I'm sorry. And a very special episode of Windows Weekly.
Paul loses it. Let's talk about our sponsor, then we'll get back. There's lots more to talk about, including I can't wait to hear your take on Bing Chat and the all-new ChatGPT-4, which is here today. Our show today, though, brought to you by Drata. Drata. Is your organization finding it difficult to achieve continuous compliance as it quickly grows and scales? When I first talked to these people at Drata, I said, people are manually collecting evidence for compliance? Oh, yeah, most people. What? Is manual evidence collection slowing your team down? Oh, I bet it is. As a leader in cloud compliance software, G2 Crowd says so, Drata streamlines your SOC 2, your ISO 27001, your PCI, DSS, GDPR, HIPAA, and other compliance frameworks by giving you 24-hour continuous control monitoring. So you focus on writing great software, on scaling, all the important things. Let Drata do the evidence collection. With a suite of more than 75 integrations, Drata easily integrates with your tech stack. Works with AWS, with Azure, GitHub, Okta, Cloudflare, on and on and on. 75 integrations. Countless security professionals from companies like Lemonade, Notion, which we use right here, Bamboo HR, all have shared how critical it's been to have Drata as a trusted partner in the compliance process. These are really great companies, great apps, and they're not taking away brain cycles trying to figure out their compliance status. Drata is personally backed, and this is another way you might be reassured that this is something you want. It's personally backed by SVCI, which is a syndicate of CISO angel investors from some of the world's most influential companies. They saw the need, and they said, we got to fund this. This is something everybody needs. Drata lets companies see all their controls, easily map them to compliance frameworks to gain immediate insight. You'll save money because there's overlap, right? And what's being overlapped? Companies could start building a solid security posture. They can achieve and maintain compliance. They can expand their security assurance efforts. Drata's automated dynamic policy templates support companies new to compliance. So this is, this whole compliance thing is it's relatively new, isn't it? We're all of a sudden paying a lot of attention to it. It helps alleviate hours of manual labor. Their integrated security awareness training program, love that. Their automated reminders, assure smooth employee onboarding, and you'll be glad to know they are the only player in the industry to build on a private database architecture, meaning your data can never be accessed by anyone outside your organization. All customers, Drata's there for you. They're a partner, right? All customers get a team of compliance experts, including a dedicated customer success manager. They've got a team of, this is so cool, former auditors with more than 500 audits. They're available for support and counsel. So you can ask an auditor, hey, is this, what am I doing? Is this right? And because Drata maintains a consistent meeting cadence, you're going to stay on track to ensure there's, no surprises, no barriers. And when it comes time to audit, Drata's pre-audit calls will prepare you, get you ready for those audits. With Drata's risk management solution, you can manage end-to-end risk assessment and treatment workflows. You can flag risks, you can score them, you can decide whether to accept them, mitigate them, transfer them, or avoid them. Drata maps appropriate controls to risks, simplifying risk management, automating the process, and Drata's Trust Center provides real-time transparency into security and compliance, which improves sales, security reviews, improves your relationship with your customers and your partners. You can say, look, see what we're doing? Say goodbye to manual evidence collection. Why was that ever a thing? Say hello to automated compliance by visiting drata.com/twit, D-R-A-T-A, drata.com/twit, bringing automation to compliance at Drata speed. We thank Drata so much for supporting Windows Weekly, and you support us when you use that address, because that's how they know you saw it here. Get that demo, the 10% off, when you go to drata.com/twit, D-R-A-T-A, drata.com/twit. Thank you, Drata. Thank you. And now back to the Rant Fest. Paul Thurrott, Richard Campbell. No more ranting. Now let's talk about AI. This won't be I can't wait to hear. Literally, ChatGPT-4 came out, Tuesday? Yesterday? And literally,
something like
5,000 companies sprang up.
Yeah.
And
Here's what this is. I'm sorry. This is the point I wanted to make that we kind of glossed over earlier. When Microsoft announced the Bing chatbot stuff, everyone was like, "Oh my god, everything's good." The thing that's cool about the Bing chatbot is technology that they don't own. They did give those guys $11 billion.
They have a 45% stake in OpenAI, right?
Okay, but they are not. They didn't make any of it, and it's not Microsoft, and it's not exclusive to them. And as you just pointed out, that technology is going everywhere now. So if everything is AI, is anything AI? At some point, AI is just going to be added to everything. And like you said, just in the past 24 hours, whatever, 48 hours, everything's being AI-ified.
Google's got it in Google Docs.
Yep.
That's theirs. Everywhere. That's I guess their Lambda or whatever, a Bard. But still,
these are really just large language models, right?
Yeah, they're all LLMs.
You call them artificial intelligence, they don't work, which is I think why you're still calling them AI, because I'm pretty sure they still don't work.
Right.
But yeah, no. Well, definitely large language models become hip.
It's funny. There are places where anything that has to do with writing, like we know we're going to see AI there. We get that. There are products that we're already using AI. Duolingo or Grammarly is a good example. Mm-hmm. And so they're adding more AI, and now people are like, oh, look, they're jumping on the AI bandwagon. Well, actually, they were there. I mean, some of them were there all along.
Yeah.
But
it's not use that term because it's not a term that means anything.
That's what I'm saying. I think it's amazing to me that we leapfrogged into this AI era, and then it's almost like it's coming crashing to a halt. Not because it's slowing down in any way, because it's just taken over the world. It's just everything. Now the term has become meaningless.
Story where they said this company said we're working on an AI technology. They raised $100 million. No discernible product.
Yeah, perfect. Yep. So anyway, I the one thing I feel good about myself is my clear-headed reaction to this Bing thing, and I think that there's going to be no, I don't think there is an explosion of AI capabilities is happening all over the world.
Yeah,
Bing will be but one of those things, and if the world has any natural order sense, Bing will be exactly what it was before this explosion. it will be Bing. And good, bad, and different. I'll leave that up to you guys.
But clearly the user count on Bing has gone up dramatically.
By the way, by what number? You'll be interested to hear if you didn't see this. 100 million.
Whoa.
They literally announced
that's a big
100 million new users. It's the exact number that Richard mentioned
about ChatGPT
weeks ago about ChatGPT 3.5.
It's the same people.
Saying Microsoft must have looked at that and said, what do we got to do to get that?
What number?
And the answer is $11 billion. And yeah. Well, there you go.
And I would disagree with you, though, that I think Bing is better because of it.
Better than what?
The old Bing.
No, of course it is. My point is everything will be better than the old thing, and Bing will, in the normal order of things, will remain where it is.
You think Google is going to be able to? We still haven't seen it, right? They put it in their search.
Right. They do talk about it a lot.
Yeah. They're still talking about employees are the only ones tinkering with it. Like it's not even data.
What bizarro world do we live in where Google put the brakes on out of concerns about this thing, and Microsoft was like, let's go for it.
Gmail was in beta for 8 years in public?
Yeah, that's true.
So why isn't it out there? Like it's a very strange Google. But clearly Microsoft's PR move on this thing has gone so well that they're like, let's give it to everybody. I mean, initially they put a barrier.
Yes. Since we started recording the show, by the way, Microsoft announced that the Bing chatbot is now just open. So if you want to go to bing.com and use it, you can. You don't have to get on the waiting list. You don't have to.
Nice.
I don't think you have to use it.
Who's paying for this?
Right.
Like you said, they don't own it. So are they really paying?
It is expensive. Yeah, it's very expensive.
It is expensive. That's right.
I mean, maybe not because Microsoft owns Azure, but you saw those stories.
Well,
no,
but there's still an expensive running.
You're still to build the models, right?
You're still foisting this thing onto the world. You're still paying for it. You are paying for Microsoft's paying to keep Azure online. I mean,
it is electricity consumed, right?
Yeah. The cost of per query or whatever is dramatically higher with these AI based products than it is for standard
Sam
search.
Altman said it was 10 times higher than a Google
10
search.
times.
10x.
Yeah.
This new version is using GPT-4, which is by all accounts like 3 to 5 times more resource intensive than GPT-3.
Yeah. But also, an order of magnitude better in some ways, right? This thing, 90% of the time, it can pass a bar exam. That was one of the quotes they had.
More about an indictment of the exam than it has about the brilliance of these.
It's like you're right. This is like building a processor to beat a benchmark. No, you're right.
I say everything we've seen is an indictment of the humans. Admittedly, it's not great writing. It's mediocre writing, but it is writing better than most humans. It's it's really, and we've been putting up with mediocrity for a long time, right?
Fair enough.
A lot of stuff is mediocre.
Yep.
Any memorization-based problem, this thing will do well with.
Right? Of course.
The fact that those exams are about memorizing, it just speaks to how poor exams they are, as opposed to exams that test comprehension. Because as soon as you challenge any of these large language models for comprehension, they fail.
Did you see, though? I mean, people have used ChatGPT-4 to write Pong. They wrote a working Pong. It did all the coding. A working snake.
1973 all over again.
Yeah. I mean, I guess somewhere it has.
This is Copilot 2.0, right?
Yeah.
In other words, the code for Pong is out there.
It's out there. So somewhere it had it. And
it's not. It didn't invent it whole cloth.
And it does seem to fail, for instance, in more recent stuff, post, this year's information sort of stuff.
Right.
No. I mean, and they missed the real opportunity. It should be writing Eliza, obviously.
Well, that's the singularity, isn't it?
Yeah. Well,
once AI is writing itself, then it gets better faster than a human can keep up with.
They make movies and books about this topic. They don't end well for us. I'll just throw that out there.
Yeah, only because you're polluting civilization, right?
Yeah.
There's pollution. It is pollution, isn't it? It's thought pollution.
We're starting to see the cost of this stuff too in interesting ways. I'm sure this is coincidental, but Google announced a bunch of AI features coming to Workspace. Google separately announced Workspace is getting a price hike. Duolingo added 2 new AI features, which, whatever. You would think like a premium version of this service would cost, I don't know, $10 a month, $100 a year, that kind of thing. And they do have that service, stupidly named Super Duolingo. But Duolingo Max, which adds these 2 new AI features, an additional $30 per month. 30.
Now, is Max also super? So is it Super Duolingo Max? Or
Max is a superset of Super. I don't know why that isn't obvious.
It's nice to see other companies naming products badly, because I thought Microsoft owned that space.
No.
So it's
by no means, sir.
I'm positive that Super Duolingo used to be called something else. I've stopped using Duolingo, so I've stopped paying attention. But I'm sure at one time it was called Duolingo Premium or Pro or some, typical name.
Community Edition SP2.
Sure.
I think one of the things that's interesting about GPT-4 is it can take an image as input.
Yes.
Somebody sketched a website and said, "Make this a website," and it did. Wrote all the code to make JavaScript and HTML and CSS to make a working website. Not a beautiful one, but it works.
Sure.
That's impressive.
Well, that's most of the web.
Yeah, it's a code monkey, but that's a good code monkey, right?
Sure.
Well, instead of going after professional developers, now you're going after the 12-year-old down the street. That's an upgrade.
It's the new VB.
There you go.
Right.
And study prompt writing, because that's really the skill now.
The question is, was Duolingo always working on this, and then management realized that if we call it AI, we get to charge more for it?
Yes. Yep.
What does it do? What's new? Is it conversational?
So one of the features, So one of the features is right now it's U.S. English to Spanish or French only. It's iOS only, which is kind of interesting. I wonder if they're using the neural processing stuff there. I don't know. It's going to expand everywhere, obviously. So one of the features is you do something like you have a conversation with a bot, basically, where you're pretending that you're in a Paris cafe and you have to order food and interact with people. And it does a kind of a realistic conversational type thing. The other one is if you've ever used Duolingo, I've run into this issue where you perform some kind of an exercise, and one of the questions, you answer the question, it goes, burp, you're wrong. You're like, nope, I was right. And over time, they added a thing where you could provide feedback, and there would be like a conversation that you could see where people were debating this particular topic. So it's kind of an advancement of that, where you can learn more about a question or an exercise, whether you got it right or wrong. And it's kind of AI based instead of it being what I would call community based, where
it's more like a human teacher.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Now, I found using Duolingo, I never wanted to know more about anything. The only time I ever wanted to, because I wanted to get as much right as I could. And when it was wrong, I was wrong. I was, obviously you're learning a language, but every once in a while I would be right. And I was positive I was right. And what I wanted to do was just go back to them with that feedback and say, no, I was right. Yeah. But I got docked a point or whatever it was.
Well, you remember how successful we've been with ChatGPT convincing for new math, right? It's plus 5 equals 21, and you could talk them into that. So now you could do that with language as well and invent your own version of Spanish.
Well, we're reinventing is the wrong word. We're debilitating language as we move forward in time as it is. I'm sure this is going to accelerate.
Figuratively or literally?
Both. It's like when people reduce words down to a single consonant or a single I'm losing my words, a single part of the word, a single component of the word. Like in other words, instead of suspicious, you're sus. Right. That's one step away from turning it into an emoji. And if you've seen kids will literally say emoji things out loud. Like they'll say, heart emoji or something. It's like, geez, Louise, what is
certainly
wrong?
Say lol, but don't we all say lol?
Smiley face. ROTFL. Yeah. Yeah. That's the way of all language, though. In college, I was a Chinese.
By the way, it is, but it's because of technology, it's accelerating. It's hard to live in this era because
it took 3,000 years
so fast
for Chinese to rub off all of the hard edges, to sand them down. Chinese doesn't have tenses. It doesn't have genders. It doesn't even really have yes or no. It's all sus. And
by Chinese, you mean Mandarin.
Mandarin
Yeah, I was going to
Chinese.
say
Mandarin Chinese.
Right.
Russian, on
Right.
the other hand, is more like Latin, where it's got declensions and conjugations. It's very structured. And it's my impression, I think linguists agree, that the age of the language shows there that the older the language, the simpler it gets, not the more complicated it gets, which is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you're seeing. That's exactly what you're seeing.
It's just hard to watch it in real time, right?
To be in the middle of it.
No, it's
Chaucer felt the same way. I want to assure you.
Okay, well, I appreciate that.
I just don't know.
You just reminded me, this is apropos of nothing, but we've all heard the term Schadenfreude, right? Which German term, gaining happiness in the despair of others. Do you know what the opposite of Schadenfreude is?
No.
It's Freudenfreude. And it's literally being happy because someone else is doing well or is happy, right? It's the opposite of Schadenfreude.
I like that.
Anyway.
And now I'd
Yeah,
like
I
to
do too.
propose that we say it Sha and Frufra.
Now I am going to go hang myself. No, sorry. We already had that talk. Sorry. Yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah. It's literally
Twitter contributes to this, right? Twitter, this thing where you can only post a certain number of characters is a step in that direction.
Oh, yeah.
It's-
Yeah. But
You know,
I guess what I'm saying is it's a natural human tendency. Maybe it's accelerated. I wouldn't be surprised.
I think it is. Yeah.
And-
I agree with you. I do. You're right, of course. But I do feel because of technology, it's been accelerated and it's just hard to live at this time.
We're just more efficient. And you're old.
I love efficiency and I hate this. I don't know. What can I tell you?
When we were first talking about this a few weeks ago, we were looking at, is this going to be a duel between tech giants, Microsoft and
Yes.
Google? And I figured Google would be making the next move.
Yeah, isn't that weird? Yeah.
Mhm.
And they haven't. And here's Microsoft doubling down. Now the chatbot is everywhere, and they've officially announced GPT-4.
But you're glossing over the fact that those things that are happening is OpenAI, and it
It's
is
not really
that
Microsoft.
company,
Yeah.
right? It's that company that's disrupting this world, and in a way, you have to give. We talked about Apple or Steve Jobs looking at the iPod and saying, "Look, we got to do the iPhone because someone else will do it if we don't." And this is, in some ways, Microsoft's attempt at doing that. Not that they were in the market leading position exactly, but instead to kind of get back into the people's consciousness, right? That Microsoft used to dominate personal computing, and now they're like Oldsmobile. People don't really think about it anymore. And I give them credit for, I give them credit. It's like Windows 11. I give them credit on the one hand, but I also have this reservation on the other hand where it's not clear to me what made them do what they did so quickly.
Well, what's also interesting is that OpenAI has really changed its charter because it was founded, you may remember, by Elon Musk, Microsoft, and others, because they didn't want all this AI development to occur in secret with Google or China or Facebook or whoever.
And it was really Google they were gunning for.
Yeah, but they wanted to do it in the open AI. Yeah. The most recent agreement with ChatGPT-4 is we're not going to tell you how it works because of the competitive environment. They say because of the competitive environment, we're not going to tell you what we trained on. Sure. And I think that's interesting. I mean,
pray they don't alter the terms further. I mean, it's.
Well, they can.
You've left off the story here where Microsoft just let their entire ethical AI team go.
Yes, that's right.
Irony alert.
As Google had done earlier with Timnit Gebru and Margaret Mitchell, and because they said things that Google didn't like. So here's the real deal. Here's the real deal, if you ask me. If I may,
please,
channel President Biden. Here's the deal.
Okay,
it's really not.
It's not malarkey.
It's not open. It's not malarkey. It's not OpenAI and Microsoft. Google's got people.
Oh,
Facebook has people. Google's head of AI, John Giandrea, went to Apple. Apple's got people. In fact, Microsoft or Facebook's large language model leaked to 4chan, and people are already using it to do very similar things. And I got to think China's got people doing this as effectively. So the fact is,
or they could be quite far behind, which would be kind of interesting,
or
too,
quite
right?
far ahead. The whole thing is we don't know, right?
Okay.
They have some advantage in things like text to speech because they have a language that's very hard to type.
Right.
So they have some advantages, and they may have been working on this longer than we have. Who knows? We just don't know.
Right.
It's so just because Microsoft and OpenAI have come forward, I expect, and I don't think that anybody's in a huge rush, because it is a competitive environment. OpenAI admitted it.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see Siri, Amazon Echo, Google Assistant suddenly come alive. They're going to be much more like her. They're going to have conversations with you. And I think it's not just going to be ChatGPT. They're the leader in the race. Not always the best to be first
I think that's kind of the central point of the conversation about AI today is it's just going to be everywhere.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And from everybody. I think none of this is secret technology. It's all very public, right?
Yeah, right.
The way it works, everybody knows.
That might be...
The Chinese have been blocking ChatGPT, and people have been getting in troubles for circumventing those blocks.
Sure.
But they just recently announced that they were going to roll out their own version of ChatGPT and had reached into the Baidus and all of the major Chinese companies saying, you will be using this.
Interesting.
Sure.
See, if I were them strategically, I might not want anybody to know what we've got.
Yeah, I don't think the problem is that this is not a country good at innovation. It's a country good at commoditization.
I thought you were going to say stealing, but okay, that too.
Intellectual theft is also a kind of commoditization.
Yep.
So, remember how strongly they reacted to AlphaGo and this whole, now you've taken our game and made a player for it. Like, we're going to go do that better than anyone. And we're still waiting for the big AI moves. I mean,
China's also big enough that they don't have to serve the world. Right.
They serve their own market.
That's what's kind of interesting. I mean, they can be very insular and still be very successful.
And yet you really can't keep what they're using in their own market secret because it's 1.5 billion users.
Yeah, it's not secret. Yeah. But also, I think they want what has changed a little bit, unlike Russia, which wants military power and territory. And of course, China does that too. But I think they're really more interested in economic power and soft power. And And so maybe this is the kind of thing where you go to India or Africa and say, hey, these guys at Microsoft and Google are eating your lunch. Look what we got.
This is actually, before COVID, and I was traveling to Europe a lot, and this is something Richard probably still experiences, and I see this a little bit in Mexico too with Huawei, is you get outside the U.S. bubble, in my case, and you realize that there's Chinese companies all over the place that you're just not really aware of. They have Mi stores here. What's that little? What's that company? Is it Xiaomi that does the Mi stuff?
Xiaomi's in fantastic stuff, by the way.
So they have stores in Mexico City. Huawei products are big in Mexico. But when you go to Europe, you would just drive around or be walking around, and you would see billboards and signs, and it's like these are companies that don't even register to this typical American. So I sort of said insular, but honestly, like as you're suggesting, I guess, I mean, they're in these markets. They're basically just not in the United States. Is what it is. And so they are in fact out there.
And if they're going to compete in the space, they need a chatbot. Obviously, that seems to be the hotness. Like I keep wondering if we're going to go into winter on this too. Like eventually, this enthusiasm wanes as the profit disillusionment appears. Right? As it turns out, it's not good.
That's right.
Yep. That's the question I keep asking. Is
the
this
legacy
real?
Is going to be the poorly written essays of a sixth grade student will now be written by AI.
Who just spent 2 years working, doing school from home and is struggling. And so,
I mean, how often have we seen technologies highly touted fail or just not deliver?
That kid who never learned anything because of COVID and is going to graduate has a rich career ahead of himself at Microsoft, working on Notepad and Paint. Yep.
We found somebody to keep your
it's all coming full circle. It's going to be fine. What am I worried about? I don't know why I complained.
That might explain it.
We're in the normal cycle.
I can't wait.
My daughter, who's 30, has developed a real revulsion for what is the latest generation? Gen Z?
Gen Z or?
She says they're on their phones all the time. She just went to a writing conference.
Wow.
And all the people under, say,
oh my God, she's turned into an old person.
I know. She's only 30, but she missed.
No, but that's crazy.
Her generation missed it a little bit. And your kids are the generation where they live on their phones.
Oh, they're little electrical leeches.
They're highly addicted.
I saw the phrase.
She saw a one and a half year old kid going through withdrawal because mommy didn't let him have the phone. She said he had the shakes. He was literally going through withdrawal symptoms.
We had to resist having words with friends of ours who have a young child who played with the phone the entire time during a dinner that was supposed to be only for adults anyway. But like just watching this horror show of non-parenting, and it's difficult.
It's universal. It's everywhere.
I just saw the phrase
before the phones were there. You used to stick them in front of Sesame Street. I mean, that's what it was for, right? Like we used.
No, that's true. But by the way, at least Sesame Street was educational. I can assure you, whatever they're doing on the phone is not educational. They're watching YouTube videos. Actually, in her case, I saw the phrase "millennial middle age crisis" today.
Wow!
Yikes!
That's my daughter.
Yeah.
He's going through a midlife crisis.
Millennial middle-age crisis. Yeah, and the problem for millennials is they don't have any money, so they can't buy a Porsche.
Right.
So they're going to have problems,
It's really true. Yeah. But I would submit first of all, you have to be familiar with these technologies, but I think you'd have a leg up if you weren't addicted to them. Maybe not.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's how this whole generation is going to be. I don't know.
This is it's like a video game. If you're good at this, you'll be good at programming. I
don't think that's true, by the way.
I don't think I don't either.
No.
I don't either.
Better yet, you go to math class.
Is how when I was coming of age, I wanted to learn to be a programmer, you had to buy a book. So you did. You went to a bookstore, you looked, there's no way you couldn't look up if they were good or bad or indifferent. You flipped through them, you're like, this one looks good, you brought it home, you read it. Today, people watch YouTube videos that can do anything. We can learn how to fix a sink. Even that's too lazy. Even that's not lazy enough for people. Now they're just going to go to AI and be like, "Hey, how do I fix the sink?"
That's really true.
Right?
But it will work because it will tell them.
You couldn't get lazier than YouTube, but in a flash, they've proven us wrong again.
We can find another level.
It's only a matter of time before it's that Isaac Asimov story where there's only 5 people per planet. They're all so fat they have to float around on things.
That's Wall-E.
They're looking at each other on view screens. No, this is Isaac Asimov before Wall-E, way before Wall-E. This is one of the robot books, and geez.
But okay, I'll tell you the same thing I told my daughter.
Yeah,
this is what old people say. This is how it's always been.
I know.
It's always been this way. Stop playing that rock and roll music. Cut your hair.
This is an existential crisis. I don't know what to do.
I have many questions. In fact, mostly it's really interesting because as I have, been doing this now for quite a few decades, mostly what has happened, instead of in the old days, I'd be informing and talking about and saying, this is the way to do it. And now it's all, what's this? What's going on?
I know.
Is this real or is this real life? What is the impact of this going to be?
Idea?
Is this a good idea? There's and I don't know the answer. I'm not playing devil's advocate or anything. I genuinely want to know when I come to people like Richard and Paul. Is this really AI or is it a parlor trick or what?
We're going to get to this later in the show, but there's an interesting point where you're heavily involved in an industry like we are. And someone will mention the name of a product, a company, a service, whatever it is. And then you have this weird moment where you say, I've never even heard of that. How is that possible? I spend almost every waking minute only thinking about this thing. And now you're telling me that there's a company that I've never heard of making a product I don't understand. It just feels weird.
Let me ask you this, though. Yeah. When you go to Mexico, do you feel like you're a little bit going back in time?
Yeah, there's a couple of whammies here. I mean, one, it's a city, right? So I live in a really rural area.
It's very urban.
First of all, it's a big, loud.
Yeah.
This is stuff, and there's that. There's the language aspect to it too, right? But yeah, there's
It's a little more old-fashioned.
People here have smartphones, right? Everyone.
Yeah.
And they're all Android phones, for one thing, almost universally. The people who live here, except the rich people, I guess. I mean, it is.
How about Wales or New Zealand?
Well, Wales or New Zealand?
Who said this?
Oh, Wales.
Who said this?
Sorry, you said Wales, and I thought of Wales like
not giant whales. No, the country.
Sorry. No, now that makes sense.
Land O'Leaks.
Yes.
Who said this? The future. Was it Heinlein? Or was it Stevenson? The future's already here. It's just not evenly distributed.
That's William
Gibson.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not Stevenson.
Gibson.
Yeah, okay. Gibson.
No, that's how you be an effective futurist, right? It's just go find the corners where the future is and then explain them to other people.
That's what Amy Webb says. She went to Japan.
William Gibson is like the Alan Kay of authors.
Yeah, that's great.
It's
full of insight.
The guy who wrote this word cyberspace for the very first time, but he wrote it on the Wedgwood typewriter. That's beautiful.
I kind of blame him for that.
That's bona fides right there.
Yeah. I kind of blame him for that. Cybernetic is not the internet. Cybernetic is something else.
Well, talk to Neil Stevenson and ask him how mRNA is going.
Yeah. It's not exactly what he predicted. Yeah.
No.
Or Neuromancer, where they jacked in.
Right, Neuromancer, which is William Gibson, right? Neuromancer.
That's William Gibson. But even then he was talking about, keyboards with no text on them, and sure. And wiring directly, very much a Second Life description of things.
One of the things I remember vividly from Neuromancer was he had a beat up laptop that had the entire knowledge of the human race on it.
Yes.
And we're very close to that.
My son, who had to have been 5 years old, he was just a tiny kid, said to me one day, they should invent a thing that could answer any question. I said, Mark, you were growing up in a world of wonder because that thing exists.
They invented it, and its name is ChatGPT.
I did not. It was Google at the time, but I didn't have that when I was a kid, for sure.
No.
I had a crusty 1972 edition of Encyclopedia Britannica I could leave for.
I had the World Book and the library, right? And if,
which had even older encyclopedias in my case.
If you want to know how old Gina Lollobrigida was when she died, where are you going to find that? You're not going to find it in the World Book. You're going to go to the library. I don't know. I guess we don't ask those questions anymore. I know. We didn't. We do now.
If anything, we have too much information. What the hell are we talking about?
Way too much. Way too much.
Yep.
All right.
Well, no, we have access to a lot of stuff. We don't know how much of it is actually information.
There you go.
And this is always the problem, right? When you have access to a lot of stuff, what's the value of anything?
This is why no one can sleep at night. There's too much information. Yeah. How much better off would you be not knowing some of the terrible things that are going on in the world?
The price of everything and the value of nothing.
Well, we're also making fun of the people who don't know. So,
well, yeah, of course, them.
Yes, but a simple person, a person who was uneducated, a person who never watched the news, didn't care, lived their little life. You have to think they probably are pretty content.
When we were in Oaxaca, we went to the Zapoteca enclave. That's one of the native, was it a race? Peoples of Mexico.
Mm-hmm. And an indigenous.
They're indigenous. And they didn't have COVID problems or restrictions because it was all sealed up. They never got it. They had, wood burning stoves, agriculture. They might have some cars and stuff, but they really lived a simple life, and they seemed very happy.
Well, let me ask you a question about Call of Duty penetration in this place.
No, zero. Zip.
Okay.
I saw the teenage daughter who would normally be going, the hell with you, Mom. I'm going downtown.
Right.
Building a fire so they could cook dinner.
Oh, that's an excellent. Oh, so you asked me if going back in time. So one thing we've noticed twice now here on Sunday is family day.
Yep.
So when you go out to eat, it's like a grandmother. It's all dressed up, and the kids bring them out to dinner. And you see them walking down the street, and they're holding on to their arm, or it's
amazing, isn't it?
We've seen them. It's crazy, and it's nice, right?
It feels wholesome.
I would probably push my mother in front of a bus at this point, but it's a different situation.
It's different, and you're used to it. You probably also know that everybody's a little dysfunctional, and you just go, that's Granny, and you still. I don't see a lot of family dysfunction. Honestly, we see multi-generation
all the time, not just Sunday, but especially Sunday. My God, especially Sunday. Mm-hmm. And we were the place we went to, this very inexpensive place on Sunday, and it was very clearly the highlight of this not multiple grandmothers, like they're dead. Like this was the biggest thing of the week. There's no doubt about it. And it was just time with family,
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good cultural element.
There is some nostalgia for that. I might add in the Gen Z, they play board games, some of them, and there's definitely some nostalgia for that, and they want that back in their family.
Well, that's nostalgia for something they never experienced.
Yeah, it's nostalgia.
That's my definition of a hipster. Is someone who's nostalgic for a thing they did not experience.
Yeah, bell bottoms.
It's like vinyl records and whatever. Like, what are you talking about? You grew up in the age of iTunes,
the Nokia 3310.
Yeah.
Making your own pickles, right?
Which is always good, actually.
Can I just tell you there's going to be a whole chapter.
21st century bottle.
Yeah, right. There's going to be a whole chapter in Henry's cookbook, his first, about making pickles, making your own pickles.
Yeah. Lots of things can be pickled, and pickled anything is good.
It's one of his specialités.
Nice.
I'm in Wales. It's corned beef country for crying out loud.
Yeah. Do they celebrate St. Patrick's Day? I know they're not Irish, but
yeah, it's an Irish thing. And the Irish don't say it.
They don't. It's Irish American. Yeah.
They'll also be quick to tell you it's St. Paddy's Day.
St. Paddy's Day. Well, our local market got a barrel, filled it up, and made their own corned beef. And we're all going down. And we're all going down to see. It's not the most attractive sight in your butcher's cabinet, the corned beef, but it's there, big hunks of it. And
it's a problem that mustard can solve.
Mustard can solve any problem. Are you kidding me?
No.
Let's talk about Microsoft 365. Really, two little things about Word, right?
Yes. I complained a lot about Word up front. Actually, this is a complaint too. Word is getting two sets of keyboard shortcuts that you would have thought it had 25 years ago, but it doesn't. The first one is paste as text, which, by the way, should be an OS level shortcut. But okay.
Yeah. Hello.
I don't know.
Well, and the shortcut key varies from app to app,
which makes me, it makes me crazy. So the way I want everything that comes into Word from outside of Word to be text. There's a setting in Word that does that, which doesn't sync, by the way, that I was talking about earlier. So if you go File Options Advanced, you'll see 4 paste options. One of them is what to do when something gets pasted in from outside of Word. Paste as text is how I do that. So I get around this problem, but yes. Control-Shift-V should always be paste as text. Period. It's not. I don't know. The other one is Zoom, right? So Word has Zoom built in, obviously, but it's non-standard Zoom. You can use a little slider at the bottom. We now know from web browsers the right way to do Zoom. The right way is Control+, Control-, Control-0.
Yes.
So Word is going to get that feature and enter the 21st century.
But still implemented in the app, not in the operating system.
Weird.
Somewhere in the operating system they implemented when I'm pasting a link, you paste the title of the link, not the frickin' link.
I think this is right. I'm not a Chromebook user. I occasionally use Chromebooks just to kind of keep up on them. I believe in a Chromebook, you can do Control+ and the whole UI will scale.
Nice.
I mean, yes, right?
Yeah.
What's happening to Leo? What's happening?
I don't know. We're in great transition for a moment there. But
what are you?
I'm getting ready for St. David's Day.
You're like a bearded radish. What is happening?
This is somebody from Wales gave me this leek hat.
Oh, a leek. Okay. A leek.
Because it's the official vegetable of Wales, I guess. And it's got a little Welsh beard. And apparently, you wear this. I did March 1st, which is St. David's Day, in Wales. So next time you're there, Richard, I'd like to lend you this.
That's amazing.
You can borrow.
This is what happens when you don't trim your green onions. This is where you
bearded leek.
I'm a bearded leek. I think it has something to do with Shakespeare. The leeks.
That's true.
Right.
But anyway, would you like to talk about developers while I peel my leek off my head?
Get rid of your leeks.
Yes.
Just two small things. Microsoft went public with Build for this year. It's May 23rd to the 25th. It's going to be live, hybrid, really, right? So they'll be live and remote. Build should always be that way anyway. In Seattle, I assume it's at the convention center. Yep.
Yeah,
conference center. So yeah, that's all I know about it. So this is a gut check moment for me because this will be my first opportunity to possibly travel to a Microsoft event since the pandemic.
If you got an urge to spend $2,200 on a conference, they're a way to go.
I'm not going to do that, but maybe travel to Seattle.
Is there a press initiative? Like you think there'd be press passes?
Oh yeah, I know. I do. You know what? That's a good question. I hope so. Actually, I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I really get a sense that Microsoft is relearning how to make conferences, and so I don't know that was part of the conversation. Yeah.
Okay. Actually, now that you say that wouldn't surprise me. Okay, so we'll see. They want developers there. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. All of my experiences around the event so far, it's like it is conference 101. We are learning from scratch again.
Wow. Okay. Well, that would give me a nice out, I guess. So we'll see. I guess we'll see. I know I assume you're going to be there. You're going, right?
I've nothing set yet. So
okay. Oh wow.
I canceled events in Europe to be available for that week when they mentioned that this is likely the week was going to be. And in the past, I have been heavily involved, but nothing's happened. And rather than be upset about this, what I said is I have two choices: one where I drive to Seattle and work, and one where I stay home.
Yep.
These are not bad choices.
No.
Right.
If there's if you guys end up there, we could do the shows from there. What is it, May 23rd?
We'd almost have to. I think one of those days is a Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday. Yeah.
Because I looked at that's the first thing I looked at.
Good.
Yeah, the 24th is a Wednesday.
In years past, I was running a broadcast space,
which I've used actually for Windows Weekly. If I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
All of that seems to still be up in the air. So otherwise, I would be arranging it.
All right, let's talk. Well, let's keep in touch on this topic. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I knew where you were. Oh wait, that's me. I don't know where I am. That's right.
Yeah.
The leak is a symbol of St. David's Day, which was March 1st.
Is it a symbol of infertility?
No.
What is it?
There's actually an interesting story. St. David suggested Welsh soldiers wear a leek attached to their helmets to distinguish them from the invading Saxon horde. Let's talk about GitHub.
Yeah, so GitHub, last year announced that by the end of 2023, they're going to require anyone who contributes code to GitHub to use 2FA, right? Two-factor authentication. They're starting to roll that out now, meaning that they're starting to contact people. They're starting with smaller teams. So if you're in a small team, or I'm an individual, I guess. So they haven't contacted me yet, but this is the first wave of that. And they'll start saying, hey, you're going to have to do this. And, hopefully most people do it right up front. You'll have some number of months to do it. If you don't, you'll start losing access to certain things. You're not going to lose any of your code or anything like that. But, they want to get GitHub secure. So
an exploitation of GitHub accounts is an issue. Right. Like you imagine successfully hacking an account for someone who's got pull request access for a major open source. Like it's a big deal.
Well, and that's right. So you can use GitHub without 2FA. If you're a contributor, you have to have 2FA.
Yeah, that's the main thing.
Yeah, and I turned it on.
General advice, you should turn it on for everything. Right? That you can. Yeah.
They've had a good YubiKey implementation for years.
I use a YubiKey with them.
Yeah. It works well.
Mm-hmm.
And
I will say that my authenticator app over the past year has gotten big. Where you it will say, hey, it'll be one of those situations where you want to type in a code and you go to look at it, you're like, oh, it's below the fold.
Yeah.
I wonder, it's kind of interesting.
I'm to a few pages now. It's getting to be a name.
It's an interesting problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's something that's happened over the past year for sure.
Yeah. Now now there's enough different MFA options that it's like, well, which one is this application?
I know that's actually a huge problem. Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to use the YubiKey as much as possible, but sometimes you must use Authenticator. You never want to use SMS.
And yet sometimes you have to.
Sometimes that's all they have.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. Yeah, that's an issue.
Fair enough.
I would like to point out, I know it's not really germane to anything, but if you look at the stock market today,
please be good news.
Uh-oh.
Please be good news.
well,
Please be good news.
lot of red, especially in software, except for Microsoft, which is green, and Google, which is green. And I suspect this has something to do with AI, I would guess.
Yeah.
With all that red. Amazon, Google.
By which you mean
Microsoft.
AI is playing the market now and betting on itself.
Maybe. That might be it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I think Microsoft has benefited mightily from this, from being the first.
Listen, they were struggling so badly before this. I mean, now it's like they're the second biggest company in the world.
It's so strange.
Okay, fine.
No, I'm not discounting what you said. I just,
I should say,
we're not used to Microsoft being
innovative,
social installed.
Right. Like people are talking about Microsoft.
Yeah, which is weird.
The last time we did this, like Bill Gates was sitting in a deposition chair looking like a jerk.
Actually, I think that's probably the chief
it's been
benefit,
a while,
isn't it? I mean, initially I would have said being an edge adoption, but really the zeitgeist. Yeah,
I think it's time for them to update their logo again.
A little
because
Terminator right on it. Is that what you're thinking? Right.
Yeah. Yep. Microsoft.ai. Just saying.
I had something a little more HAL 9000 in mind.
Just a big
red eye. Microsoft.
That's a big fall from grace. They used to be the Death Star,
Oh, there was the Borg period. It was always a picture of
right. Bill Gates with the Borg.
with the laser on his side of his head.
We here for you.
Yeah.
Hello, Richard.
Sorry, Leo. I can't do that.
Sorry, Leo. Paul, I think you'd better do the Xbox segment.
This will be curiously quick, although Microsoft just announced 2 10-year cloud gaming deals.
Woo!
With companies you've never heard of, which is what I was referring to earlier. Boosteroid and Ubitus. What?
That sounds made up. It definitely sounds either like a new pharma,
Boosteroid, I think, is something to remove hemorrhoids.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Then, Ubitus.
Don't use Boosteroid if you've had any allergy.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Ubitus.
So
Boosteroid.
Where do they find these companies?
Ubitus.
Like, what is this?
But this is all for Europe, right? This is all to reassure. Oh, and actually, the EU's given up to reassure the FTC and the DOJ.
Reassure any regulator, like, hey, look, we're doing these deals. We want to do this deal with Sony. Sony just won't even talk to us.
Yeah.
Ubitus is a Japanese
Sony is
gamer.
wearing diapers, kicking its legs in the corner because its cracker just snapped in half, and it doesn't know what's going on.
He's the one who snapped them in the first place.
Yeah, they did it themselves. Yeah, exactly.
I hurt myself.
Yep. They're just so petulant.
Mm-hmm. And
I just don't want to. It's that dumb and that simple.
Yeah.
Such a good word. Petulant.
Yeah.
You should say it with an English accent. Petulant. Epic Games. Epic Games. What's new there?
Yeah. So Epic Games is kind of interesting because they have the store and the PC. It's one of several options there, right? They have over 1,500 games there now. 626, I think, new titles came to the store last year. They often have free games, which I think is probably a big part of their appeal. They only take a 12% cut on games compared to 30% on Valve, Steam rather, and 30% obviously on mobile typically. But they're going to do this thing that Microsoft was talking about a couple of years ago. And I'm not sure I've seen a bunch of this happening, but they're going to basically allow stores within the store. And if you want to have, as a third party, want to go through the Epic Game Store and use your own payment systems and blah, 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 they're going to let you do it. And this makes sense, I think, coming from these guys. Tim Sweeney's always been kind of pushing against the big guy. They're literally in lawsuits, against Google and Apple.
These are the Fortnite guys who got in trouble with Apple when they tried to circumvent the store.
Yeah.
And they're now also, it's great. They're up to 1,500 games. What's Steam at? 50,000?
I was going to say, some order of magnitude. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is still, but when you're in the PC, it's not like Xbox. Like you buy a console, you have to go through Xbox. When you're on the PC, you can you pick and choose. You know, I get stuff
You
from here
can
and
still
there.
buy a DVD if you try hard enough. I don't know where you
absolutely
put it on your computer, but you can do it.
Yep.
I'm not unhappy that Steam has even a minor competitor, because it is a remarkably, by the way, entirely privately held monopoly.
Yep.
Right? Gabe Newell is a multi-billionaire.
Right.
And
so is Tim Sweeney. but yeah.
And because there's never been more than a few hundred shareholders at Valve, they're never going to end up public, and they don't have any reason to. I am aware.
You can tell you can tell there's no oversight there, because they haven't made Half-Life 3 yet, for crying out loud. What is going on? Like, talk about
Steam is a
mismanagement.
massive success, in all honesty. I mean, Epic would love to be that big. Steam is the default way you play games on a PC.
Sure, without a doubt. And Valve will never make a single-player game ever again. They make multiplayer games, right? They didn't work on Half-Life 3. They worked on Dota. And they make more money on Dota per year than they make on Half-Life.
I believe there's an original Half-Life ray tracing mod that's out now that looks beautiful. There's obviously I
got the Portal implementation of that, and it's gorgeous.
Okay. There's also it's called, is it not Project Mesa? Black Mesa. I think it's just called Black Mesa after the place in the game. Which is a remake of the original Half-Life with modern graphics, gorgeous. You know, there's stuff like that. But guys, come on. I mean, this would sell itself.
Yeah, but it would never make enough money.
Yeah, that's probably true. Then let the community do it. You know,
I don't know. It's an interesting point. I mean, he did go back and revisit the Half-Life world to experiment with VR.
Yep.
With Alex.
Yep.
But, and it had its own set of problems. But
Portal is tied into that world, right? I mean, the two Portal games.
Black Mesa.
Yep.
I love Portal. Yeah.
I do too.
Yeah.
It's very clever. They're very clever.
That song is fantastic. What is it?
Still alive. This was a triumph. I'm making a note here. Big success.
Yep.
Jonathan Colton, still alive.
Colton, thank you. Yes.
The device has been modified, I'm told. I'm not sure what that means, but I'm worried now.
Okay. Like we're supposed to march on the government or something?
I don't know. The AI is talking to me.
It's from AI Portal. Has told us.
It's from Portal. Yeah.
Oh, I see.
It's Portal 2. Must be the Portal 2 victory theme. The device is modified. Still Alive was from Portal 1. Yeah.
I gotcha. Okay.
Let us take a break, and the back of the book is coming up. We're going to have some brown liquor, some more lessons in whiskey coming up, along with tips.
It's MASH day.
It's MASH day. Nice. But first, a word from our sponsor, Collide, Kolide. Collide is the way to implement a zero-trust architecture. I'll tell you why. One of the major holes in zero-trust architectures is device compliance, right? Collide is a device trust solution that ensures unsecured devices can't access your apps. And we have a great, by the way, lesson in this. If you listen to Steve yesterday on Security Now, remember the LastPass hack, we've learned that the DevOps guy, there were 4 DevOps guys who had keys to the S3 buckets. One of them was working at home on his laptop, which had a 3-year-old unpatched version of Plex on it. Now, had they been using Collide, they could have set it up so this guy could not log in, could not get into the network, but they didn't. And, well, you know what happened. Collide has some big news for you Okta users. Collide can get your entire fleet to 100% compliance. And this is the problem. Your identity provider, like Okta, only lets known devices log into apps. But just because a device is known, oh, yeah, sure, they knew that DevOps guy. Just because a device is known doesn't mean it's in a secure state. In fact, plenty of the devices in your fleet right now probably shouldn't be trusted. Maybe they're running out-of-date OS versions, or maybe they've got unencrypted credentials lying around. Their browsers aren't up to date. They've got a 3-year-old version of Plex. If a device isn't compliant or isn't running the Collide agent, which is what ensures compliance, it can't access your SaaS apps or other resources. You just can't get in. The device user cannot log into your company's cloud apps until they've fixed the problem on their end. It's that simple. If let's say, as an example, your device doesn't have an up-to-date browser, employees using a laptop, using an old version of Chrome. What Collide does, the agent notes that, and then gets the end user to remediate it so they can log in. And this is fantastic because using end user remediation drives your fleet to 100% compliance, but it does not overwhelm your IT team. And now the users are on that team. They're there to help. They're not the enemy. They're your allies. Without Collide, IT teams have a real challenge to solve these compliance issues or stop insecure devices from logging in. With Collide, you can set and enforce compliance across your entire fleet. And that's one of the great things about Collide, completely cross-platform. Mac, Linux, and PC. Collide's unique in that it makes device compliance part of the authentication process. So the user fires up Okta, ready to log in. Collide then alerts them, says, wait, whoa, hold on there, buddy, bucko. There's a compliance issue. You can't log in till you fix this. And it gets fixed, and it's secure, and you, the IT guys, the security, didn't have to get involved. It's security you can feel good about because Collide puts transparency and respect for the user at the center of their product. And honestly, it really, really works. To sum it up, Collide's method means fewer support tickets, less frustration, more importantly, 100% fleet compliance. Using Okta, you need to visit collide.com/WW to learn more or book a demo. And maybe you want to use Okta just so you can use Collide, right? KOLIDE, collide.com/WW. Brilliant idea. We thank you, Collide, for supporting Windows Weekly. You support Windows Weekly when you use that special address. Get that demo. Find out more. KOLIDE.com/WW. Thank you, Collide. And I bet you right about now, LastPass wishes they had Collide back in the day. You see, I mean, that can be a huge cost to a company, right? I mean, reputational, business-wise.
I don't know the leadership at LastPass are all that concerned. It changed hands how many times in 2 years?
When they were advertising with us, they were owned by LogMeIn. They were a standalone company. LogMeIn bought them.
Yeah.
LogMeIn sold to private equity. Then now the private equity, which is always
a good sign.
That's when it went.
Right.
That was after they stopped advertising. I think it was probably why, because private equity is all about cutting costs. You know. And by the way, the program they clearly focused on UI because LastPass looks great, works nicely.
Software was fine.
Yeah, they worked on they worked on the front end.
Yeah.
And they apparently neglected a little bit in the back end. Actually, I feel for them because what's become more and more apparent is that they were the focus of a very targeted attack. They, you know, the bad guys got in the summer. They got a lot of information about the company. Then they targeted the 4 DevOps guys who had those keys, you know, specifically. They found that Plex hole, got in through that. And were able to get in the S3 buckets. They kind of knew exactly what they wanted to do,
right?
Which is a little scary.
It's always a challenge to be targeted.
Yeah,
as opposed
it's
to
hard.
Tripod.
Yeah,
right?
It's really hard. And so I don't. In some ways, I don't feel. I feel a little sorry for them. Somebody, I can't remember who on our Sunday show was saying, you know, it could have been a competitor. I don't think it was a competitor.
Jeez.
It's sure. I mean, I don't think it was a competitor.
Wow.
I think it was much more likely. In fact, now Steve said maybe North Korea is implicated. So it could have been a nation state.
There may well be a ransomware attack going on in this. They've just never revealed it.
That's right. We don't know.
I mean, their disclosures have not been great.
Right.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah. All right. Back of the book. Let's start off. Paul, you got something for us? A little tip of the week.
Yeah. So if you are a YouTube premium subscriber, and we're actually going to get to that in the app pick of the week as well, you can, well, I should say, asterisk, if you're in the United States and you have never signed up for this service before, you can get 3 months of PC Game Pass, which is Microsoft's PC-based Xbox Game Pass service for free. So you should definitely try this. I've been using PC Game Pass since I've been here in Mexico. I don't usually use it, but I had to write about the Xbox app for the book, and I signed up, and it's honestly, even on a kind of pedestrian laptop, it's not bad. So there's that. Excuse me.
No, it's pretty impressive, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, not bad. And it's one of those many options, like we were talking about Steam and Epic Games and, good old games and whatever else is available. There's lots of stuff. So that's one of the choices. So I don't know if you've been following the news about Spotify. Spotify apparently decided that what people want is TikTok. So they've turned Spotify into TikTok. Have you looked at this thing?
Instagram did too. It drives me nuts.
It's awful. It's awful. And I don't use Spotify, but everyone else in my family does. So I have Spotify. So I looked at it and I cannot believe what they did to this app. It's crazy. And the only good news is that so what happens is there's a feed basically on the homepage. You can say, I just want music, instead of podcasts and whatever else. And if you select just music, it's just music videos and they play on a loop and you go down and instead of like playlist names, it's like a playlist or an album. And there's like a segment of a music video playing. It's the most, it's like attention span, lack of attention span theater. It's crazy. And if you're playing music, you go back out to the home feed, it will actually stop playing the music. It will play the music that's in the feed. I've never seen anything like this. Anyway, my point is not to talk about Spotify, but to say, by the way, YouTube Music doesn't do that yet, probably. YouTube Music has a lot of advantages over all the other music services. But for me, the big one is any video that's on YouTube can be added to a playlist in YouTube Music. Now, you're not going to add videos where it's someone talking like us, but there are live performances. Mm-hmm. There are different versions of songs that are only on YouTube, and it's just part of the subscription. You also get YouTube Premium as part of your YouTube Music subscription, and that's no ads on YouTube. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
So it's like that 1-2 punch.
I tried to because I have Apple Music. I had Spotify. I've quite a few. And I said, I should get rid of YouTube Music. And the minute I did, I lost YouTube Premium. And it was like,
No. You ever tried to? I know. God help you. Trying to. I can't believe people watch YouTube and don't pay for it.
I don't get it.
So, years ago when Google had something called Google Play Music, which is a very kind of a traditional music app, and they were switching to YouTube Music, a lot of people freaked out. And I'm sure a lot of people left. But even like the earliest versions, I was like, I don't know, this is fine. Like I use this thing every day, and you've seen our music night photos and things like that. But like, I use YouTube Music all the time. It's fantastic. Yeah. So I don't. Whatever.
I'm with you.
Anyway, it's got enough going on for it, for sure. And it doesn't have a stupid TikTok feed on the front of it.
Every social media is afraid. Every piece of software wants to be social media, and they all want to be TikTok.
They're all running scared. It's crazy.
It's just, it has nothing to do with that market. It's just so, it's like, it's just sad.
Well, and I was a big Amazon Music fan.
Yeah.
But now they're just promoting podcasts. Every other line is a podcast.
This is the problem with, and by the way, Spotify, same thing. I've resisted writing an article called Podcasts Are Not Music. And I do not like the integration of podcast into music apps. That to me, those are two things. They're audio. I listen to them.
My listeners on Run As demanded I was on Spotify.
Really?
Really?
And it's like 3% of my downloads now come through Spotify.
Okay. I don't like I don't use Spotify, but before the remake this past week, going to the homepage of an app and seeing podcasts mixed in with music, it's like, what?
Now they should be kept separate, but
we've always been on Spotify, but we don't. In fact, when Spotify launched back in the day, we were on the stage. There was a TWiT logo with
nice. That's cool.
When they launched their podcast thing, but
sure,
we'd never be exclusive unless they gave me $500 million. In which case,
oh my God,
I love
second,
Spotify.
and I would stop complaining. A small percentage of that, I would change my tune immediately.
Love those guys.
Yeah,
but that didn't happen. I'll tell you. Here's my vote of confidence for YouTube Music. I have my funeral playlist there. So, this is what I want you to play.
Is Paint It Black the first song?
Yeah, I see a red door and I think it starts sad and then it gets uplifting and they'll walk out dancing is my plan.
It's a celebration of life.
I want a big picture of me on an easel and then the little
this is for your funeral.
Oh yeah, well whose funeral you think I'd be making?
I don't know. Maybe you just bring it along. Like I have a mixtape if you guys want to throw something on.
It even says the
Or Bob
subtitle
or
is
whoever.
Songs to Play at My Memorial Service.
That's amazing. Oh, I need it. Yeah, you tell me you're sharing this with the world.
I don't know. I don't know. Is it, how do you share it?
You can make it. You can make it public.
Is it public? Let me see. Should be public. I don't know why it wouldn't be.
Well,
It's
I
a
don't know
work
what
in
the
progress.
default is, most of my playlists are private, but
yeah.
Nobody needs to know about my wham fixation. This is just.
That would actually, let me add that. Wake me up before you go.
Wake me up. That should be the last. That could be the last song. Don't leave without me.
You know what? I'm going to put that in the last song. People will
it's
leave.
So horribly out of place.
With a smile on their face.
Just people nervously looking at each other like, what is going on?
Are we supposed to wake him up? Is that going to work? You shake him. No, you shake him.
Stick a pin in his toe. Let's talk about Run As Radio. I bet you've got such good episodes. What's coming up?
This week's show I did with Gila Fish. I actually recorded it back at NDC in London, which was the last time I was in the UK. And Gila is in Israel, works for Wix. And she works in the incident management side. So we were talking about her approach to incident management, mostly from the point of view of, yes, we have incidents, and our main job is not just to fix it, but to make sure it doesn't happen again. And so being thoughtful about your reactions are important, because our urge to get back up online destroys the evidence we need to make sure it doesn't happen again. And so it's that sort of thoughtful moment of, do we understand what's going on? Have we snapshotted everything? Do we know the state of affairs before we go ahead and start working on a recovery approach? I mean, I think the instinct of a lot of IT people when there's an outage for whatever reason is reboot everything.
Yeah.
And often that's going to destroy an awful lot of information you needed to do root cause analysis. So we had a great, very serious conversation about impact on customer first. Like, is this a visible problem? Is it affecting customers? Is that puts a little more pressure on the time and what level of exploration you're willing to do? Doing some snapshotting for recreation, just being really thoughtful about how you do the retrospective part so that that particular issue never happens twice.
Very good. A must listen. And I like her name, Gila Fish. That's a good name.
Great. Yeah. Yeah. Really smart, enjoyable to chat with her. She had a good time. And, these are the sort of folks doing this hard work that don't always have those conversations very often. She was excited to talk about it too, which comes across in the show.
I have added "Wake Me Up Before You Go" as the last song.
Yeah, that was what we're all supposed to dance out on, right?
So I see you have "In My Life" by the Beatles.
Yeah, that's a classic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then Mad World, right? Walking in Memphis is always made me feel good.
Though? There's a Mad World, you should get the slow version.
This
that was
is the
recorded
slow version. Gary Jules.
Yeah, nice.
Yes.
There you go. That's the one. Yep.
Michael Andrews. Oh, it's so beautiful. Yeah, not the Tears for Fears.
Right. No, but that one's good too. But the slow version is amazing. I just added that to a playlist.
It's good. We'll leave people laughing. They'll be listening to all this teary music, crying because I died so young. And
you should also add the slow live version of "Gone Away" by Offspring. Is fantastic, and in the same league as Mad World. Look for that.
I don't know but I'm going to listen, and if it fits, I'm putting it in.
Oh, you put it right next to that song. They go together. It's perfect.
Well, I want people to be too devastated.
No, it's a good one.
Mad World is that's the Donnie Darko theme. It
was also used in the first ad for Gears for War.
That's right, but just the instrumental at the beginning, right?
I think so. Yeah.
All right, let's talk MASH, baby.
We've gone through the process of growing barley and harvesting it, getting it to malt to actually cause it to grow, to turn green, then drying it, and then grinding it to grist, which is that mixture of hull and the hearts, and as well as the flour. So now you have your grist, and you've got to now extract the sugar from it. And so this is mashing. And so it's moved over to a mash tun. And a mash tun, traditional ones are cast iron. Sometimes they have copper tops. The modern ones are all, of course, all stainless steel. and they have a false bottom on them that has a layer of mesh so that water can drain through it and out through a drain. And the grist is spread very evenly across the bottom of the mash tun. And then you soak water through it to get the sugars out. But it's a bit more complicated than that because, malting has converted some of the sugars in the seed, some of those carbohydrates into sugar, but not all of them. There are many more long chain carbohydrates that can be converted into sugar, and that process is done with one of the very first enzymes we ever understood to exist, diastase. Amylase, specifically with barley, is the type of diastase that hydrolyzes carbohydrates into sugars. And barley happens to have amylase in it. I mean, amylase is also in your mouth. But,
I thought the sugars came from bacteria.
Well, these are the enzymes that break down the carbohydrates that are in the grist.
So it's not because I know I guess that's for fermentation. But I thought
we're going to get into the yeast part of this later.
Yeah. But I thought bacteria made the sugar. So it is actually an enzyme. And where does the enzyme come from?
The enzyme amylase actually exists in the barley already. In the normal process of germination of a seed, amylase is used to break down the sugars to grow the plant.
Right. That's why we sprout seeds, so they're more nutritious. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because we simplify the sugars.
Yeah.
So now we're going to go further down the path in mashing. So we've ground into grist, that malt, and now we're going to introduce water to it. And they typically bring water to it at about 62 to 65 degrees centigrade, so about 143 to 149 degrees in the measurements of the oppressors. And that water is hot enough to activate the enzyme without actually killing it. So you maximize the enzymatic reaction to break down those carbohydrates. The rate you put the water in is played with. Different distilleries care about how fast they add the water. It's only going to extract a certain amount of sugar in the initial pass. So often on what they call the first water, they'll cycle that water back into the mash tun again to increase the sugar concentrations. And after it's gone through a bit, they put that water in very carefully. You don't want to create gaps in the mesh. You want to keep the grist evenly spread across. That whole grinding part of the grist, you don't want too much flour because it kind of turns into porridge and blocks up the mash. And so eventually, that as that water is moving through, they'll put it in a holding tank, a thing called the undertun.
You got your mash tun and your undertun.
And then your undertun. That's right. And so then they'll do a second water. And the second water, so they raise the temperature a bit. Now it's about 75 degrees, about 167 or so. And that gets more sugar out at the expense of damaging the enzymes. That's all right. The enzymes have kind of done their thing in the initial extraction. And so actually it's called the underback tank. So there's typically you do 2 washes with some recirculation to extract that sugary water as much as possible. And this is the stuff they call wort.
Wort, W-O-R-T.
W-O-R-T. At every step we've done so far with the barley and the malting and so forth is exactly the same as making beer. So beer and whiskey, whiskey is just what beer wants to be when it grows up in the first place.
Nice.
So, you've gotten to the wort phase and you store that in the underback tank because it's a bit too hot to be moved over to fermentation. Yeast like about 30 degrees centigrade and this stuff's 60 plus. So you want to hold it for those first 2 waterings, but you're not done back on the mash tun. You've now filled the underback. That's the stuff that's going to go on to be wort. And now you'll do sparging. And sparging, they raise the temperature even higher in the water. So now you're getting into 75, 85, 90 degree points. They'll do 3 or a third and a fourth wash. And those sugars are not going to go into the underback. That water is then reserved for the next batch that's going to go into the mash tun. So that when they start the water's already a bit sugared from that initial passes. And the mash that's left behind now, they actually turn into cattle feed called draff. They'll dry it and pack it, and it's nutritious for animals. Some places even will pack it down and burn it to be used as sort of energy as well. The mash tun itself is, these are really big now. When we talk about modern whiskey making, which goes back to the middle 1800s, really the Victorian age. They were mostly you'd use cast iron tanks for this. They also stir the mash while they're passing the water through it because they want to maximize extraction, but they don't want to stir it too much. There's a whole game with different distilleries of how much you stir it, because some places are very concerned about having clear wort, just clear sugary water, and some think you want some of that material in the wort as well. They talk about how cereally you want your wort. It has more of the grain flavors will be carried into the whiskey, as opposed to getting a very clear sugar. It's going to make a very smooth or a lighter whiskey. So different distilleries have different rules around all of these things. The old Victorian machinery is beautiful to look at. I've been to a bunch of the distilleries that have them. They call them rakes, but they're basically arms that reach into the barrel and rotate and stir the grist up and keep the mash mixing to increase sugar extraction. The modern technique called the Lauter technique is very German. It's from beer making. It's all stainless steel, and they use Lauters, which are rods that extend down into the mash, and they have rotating blades on them. And they control the mixing very precisely, so you get exactly the cloudiness of the wort that you want.
I always have the same reaction to this, though. I'm fascinated by the history of this. Like, how did they figure this out?
They were motivated.
It's all size,
right? More times on their hands.
Highly motivated.
You talk about very traditional whiskey making going back to the 1700s, right? Like, you could trace whiskey back for several hundred years. Because the batches were so much smaller, a lot of this stuff was just done by hand. So you basically have a person with a paddle stirring the water as they're extracting the sugars. But as the tanks get too big to reasonably do that by hand, again, this is very much the industrial age, right? Victorian age with the first industrial machines. The earliest versions of these were running off of water mills and turned on belts to crank the gears, right? They were all pretty mechanical. They've just been modernized from there. But that's, trying to make consistent whiskey. And the particular whiskey I picked this time, and I always pick it because it's a relation to this. It's a whiskey it's called Springbank, the distillery, and it's in Campbellton. Now, most folks don't know Campbellton. When you think about, we talk about 6 whiskey regions. So, and there's the ones everybody knows: the Highlands, the Speyside, the Lowlands. Islay is its own thing. And there's a group they call the Islands, so that's Jura and Arran and where's Talisker on Skye, up in the Orkneys, so forth. That's sort of the collectively on the islands. Islay, also an island, but so significant in the space, it basically considered its own category. But near Islay and some of the islands is a peninsula in the southern part of Scotland called Campbellton. It's actually the southern edge of Campbellton is the closest approach to Ireland you can get. And it once was a very major whiskey producing area with over 30 distilleries. At the moment, it has 3. And one of them, arguably the most popular one, is Springbank. The other 2 are Glengline and Glen Scotia, both of which I've had an opportunity to sample. What's interesting about Springbank is that they use a completely original mash tun. So it is literally a cast iron Victoria era tank with no top. They don't worry about the heat loss in that. They haven't dressed it up and so forth. It's very fundamental. And their Springbank they make every year, and it's a 10-year-old. It's really basic whiskey, no filtration, no color manipulation. They do a light peating. So when they're drying their malt, they'll do 6 hours of the drying with peat, and then another 24 with just hot air. So it adds a little bit of the peat flavor, but not too much. The traditional, their usual 10, they tend to age in bourbon barrels because they're inexpensive, although they occasionally will use something else. So there has been sherry cask used. There are also cherry cask used. The 2020 edition of this Springbank won a ton of awards. And at the time, it was about $50. It was a bargain for what it was. The current edition now, if you can find it, it's over $100.
I think Paul would like this because, yes, sherry and bourbon, but also salted caramel and toffee.
Oh, I'm a little concerned about the peat, but it sounds like it's not too much.
It's a very mild peat.
It sounds very sweet, too, which is interesting.
It's a pretty approachable whiskey. But for the effort you'll take to find it, and it's not inexpensive. It's almost not worth the effort.
Yeah.
Right.
Except if you're a whiskey aficionado, there are not a lot of Campbelltons. And so if you're going to try the different regions, like if you tell me, well, which Campbellton should I get? I'd say get the Springbank 10, because while it's still difficult to find, it's only $100.
How about
How
about the cask strength 12? That might be
but
more.
I'm sure. Yeah. I think that'd be a ton of fun, right? And it's a straight bourbon, like potent.
Yeah.
Right. If we could, again, we'd have to hunt it down. Easier to find in Scotland than it is to find elsewhere. But there's always a lot of conversation when Springbank is running a batch, because they don't run round the clock. Like when I was talking about the mash tun and how they'll take the sparge from the previous batch and they'll go right in the next batch, because many of these distilleries now are 24-hour-a-day operations where they are always working grist constantly.
Right.
Springbank is not that kind of distillery. They make smaller quantities, and they don't do near as much. That 30-year-old Springbank there you're looking at, that's probably a $2,000 bottle of whiskey.
Oh my!
You only make 1,400 bottles of it, right? So that is a pretty narrow run, and they're just scarce. Anyway, it's a very fun version of the of whiskey. It's an unusual, like very small region today that has its own styles, but it does speak to this particular set of effort. And at this point, we have now made wort, so we can now go off with some hops and a little bit of work and we'll do some fermentation and make some beer, or we can go make whiskey with it. And so the next conversation is going to be about fermentation.
Wow. This is really cool. I want to go on the distillery tour.
Mm-hmm.
That would be so cool. I take it you've done that. Yeah.
I've done a bunch of them. Remember, there's 60 plus distilleries still on operation in Scotland. Most do not have tours.
Yeah.
The ones that do, they're well worth going to, but you can only do 2 or 3 of them in a day before you get burned out.
Yeah. Or drunk off your ass.
Well, more you can't feel your face.
Right? Man, I want to try this. It looks really good.
It's a fun whiskey.
Yeah, it looks really good. Richard Campbell has done it again. runasradio.com for Run As Radio and .NET Rocks. He's in Wales. Be back in town next week, back in BC. Coquitlam. Thank you, Richard.
My pleasure.
Great stuff. I get thirsty every time I do this show. We'll
have to put together a collection of all the whiskeys we've pulled, right? And
we could sell it, and just a 20% markup, we'd make millions.
Since we're doing this, I should mention that there is a corn-based alcohol here in Mexico called Nixta, which, as you can see, comes in a corn-shaped bottle.
Isn't that cute? Isn't that cute?
It has a distinct corn taste, which is a little strange.
Good. No, it sounds good.
It's fun in cocktails.
I like it. Yeah. And you happen to have it right to hand, which is interesting.
It's weird that it happens to be one right here.
You keep it close.
In his desk drawer.
I didn't think it was going to be that close.
That's Paul
It's
Thurrott.
evening here in Wales, so I will be down to the sequel bits reception. From here.
I hope there's a big stone fireplace with wooden tables that have been there 100 years, and there's a nice glass of something sitting.
So it must be. What is it? What time is it there? 9:45-ish.
It's not quite that late. Yeah, 8:45.
8:45. Okay. All right, because UK. Yeah, 5 hours. Yeah.
But we are staying at a place called The Manor.
I love it.
As you thought, the big stone fireplace.
Love it.
I'm so jealous. Paul Thurrott, he lives at thurrott.com, posts all the time. Become a premium member, get an extra good dose of Paul Thurrott, THURROTT.com. His book, The Field Guide to Windows 11, including The Field Guide to Windows 10, available at leanpub.com. Thank you, gentlemen. We do this show on Wednesdays, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1800 UTC now. We have sprung forward, 1800 UTC. You can watch us do it live at live.twit.tv, chat live at irc.twit.tv, or in the Club Twit Discord. Always good fun in there. I see Paul was interacting a little bit in the Discord. Richard, if I've never sent you a complimentary club membership.
I'm there as well.
Oh, good. I'll make sure you...
Just
you're doing a show. I don't expect you to hobnob with a hoi polloi or anything, but, it's nice to have you in there once in a while. The club is $7 a month, gets you ad-free versions of this show and all the shows, plus shows that are club only, like Paul's Hands on Windows, Hands on Macintosh with Micah Sargent, the Untitled Linux Show, Stacy's Book Club, the Giz Fizz, all the events we do in the club. You get access to the Discord, which itself is a clubhouse. It's so great, so much fun. You also get the Twit Plus feed with additional material not heard anywhere else. Twit.tv/clubtwit if you're not yet a member. It would be great to have you in there. Actually, I know you're not a member because if you remember, you wouldn't be hearing me talk about it.
Yep.
We edit this out too. Yeah. Twit.tv/clubtwit. After the fact, copies of this show are available at twit.tv/WW for Windows Weekly. There's a YouTube channel dedicated to Windows Weekly, and of course, you can subscribe. We're in every podcast player, including Spotify. Just search for Windows Weekly, subscribe. That way, you'll get it automatically the minute it's available. Thanks, everybody. Now back to your places. Go get a dram of something because Windows is over.
Have some Nixta.
Have some Nixta. Have some corn liquor.
It's crazy.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am Ant Pruitt, and I am the host of Hands on Photography here on Twit TV. I know you got yourself a fancy smartphone, you got yourself a fancy camera, but your pictures are still lacking. Can't quite figure out what the heck shutter speed means? Watch my show. I got you covered. Want to know more about just the ISO and exposure triangle in general? Yeah, I got you covered. Or if you got all of that down, you want to get into lighting, making things look better by changing the lights around you. I got you covered on that too. So check us out each and every Thursday here on the network. Go to twit.tv/hop and subscribe today.